Can you check YouTube now?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, cool. All good. Okay, I'll start. Okay, let me. Iqbal bhai, can you have a look at the attendees? I'm gonna just start conference call.
जी ठीक है अमर भाई.
Okay.
मैं प्रोग्राम क्विकली ढूंढ रहा हूँ. प्रोग्राम का
or for future playback, press *2.
I just wanted to confirm the conference call has just started. So if you can just join there.
Look all right.
Zohair, can you join the conference call, please? Zohair, can you join the conference call?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My dear brothers, Qadam Ahmadiyya. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to our Trade and Careers Expo online event. We'll start the program first with a recitation of the Holy Quran by our brother Hafiz Waqas Naim from Region Victoria.
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. I have just recited verse 187 of chapter 2 from the Holy Quran. Now I will present English translation of the verse. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, and when my servants ask thee about me, say, I am near. I answer the prayer of the supplicant when he prays to me. So they should hearken to me and believe in me, that they may follow the right way. Jazakumullah.
Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to call on for Nazam, brother Ebsham Gondal from Region Mukami.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum. منظوم پاکیزہ کلام حضرت اقدس مسیح موعود علیہ السلام. ہمیں اس یار سے تقویٰ عطا ہے، نہ یہ ہم سے کہ احسان خدا ہے، نہ یہ ہم سے کہ احسان خدا ہے. کرو کوشش اگر صدق و صفا ہے، کرو کوشش اگر صدق و صفا ہے، کہ یہ حاصل جو ہو جو شرط لقاء ہے، یہی آئینہ خالق نما ہے. یہی ایک جوہر सैफ दुआ है। हर एक नेकी की जड़ ये का है। हर एक नेकी की जड़ ये का है। अगर ये जड़ रहे सब कुछ रहा है। यही फख्र शान ओलिया है। बजुज तक़वा ज़ियादत इनमें क्या है। डरो यारो के वो बीना खुदा है। अगर सोचो यही दारुल जज़ा है। डरो यारो के वो बीना खुदा है। अगर सोचो यही दारुल जज़ा है। मुझे तकवा से उसने ये जज़ा दी। फसुब्हानल्लज़ी अख़ज़ल आदी। फसुब्हानल्लज़ी अख़ज़ल आदी. Jazakallah. English translation. We have the gift of God-fearing from that beloved, not by ourselves, but simply through the grace of God. Strive hard to gain if you are true and pure, for this is the condition for seeing him. This is the mirror that displays the Creator. This is the reality behind the sword of prayer. The root of all virtues is fearing God. All is well if this root is preserved. This is the pride that emanates of the saints, except for fearing God. What else do they have? Dear friends, O friends, for he is a watchful God. If you ponder, this is a place for recompense. He has given this reward to me through God-fearing. Holy is he who has confounded my foes. Jazakallah.
Assalamu Jazakallah for that, Nazim. So, as I said earlier, we're starting our Careers and Trade Expo, and it's an online format, as you're aware of. I would request all Qadams to reach out to their friends, to jump onto YouTube and to view us. If you have any questions, we've got a questions and answer section at the end, and you can send them through online, or you can send them directly to Brother Waqar. So the format of this next will be a speech by respected Wadud Janud Marabi Silsila. Then after that, we will have our Careers Expo, which will start with Dr. Masood talking about careers and advices, and then Atawa Al Nasser talking about teaching as a career. And then we've got our own police officer, Brother Faisal Ahmadi, talking about policing. And then myself, which I will talk about trade career. And then we have a business lecture by Rashid Bashir. So that's the format. And after that, we'll have a question and answer session and a closing address. So I'd like everyone to invite their friends, get online, ask any questions you have, and let's get started. So I'd like to call on respected Wadud Janud to give a speech on philosophy of dua, Marabi Silsila. Jazakallah.
Rabbi Sab, can you please turn your camera on, Rabbi Sab?
Yep, just give me 1 second, please.
Jazakallah.
Something, can you guys hear me?
Ji, Rabbi Sab, all good.
Am I, is it my turn to speak or?
Rabbi Sab, yeah, we're waiting for you to speak.
Sorry, it's the volume is just quite low. I can't hear you.
Rabbi Sab, yes, it's your turn now.
Oh, acha.
You can start now. Yeah.
Jazakallah.
Sorry, my Zoom just crashed.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh.
Yeah, that's what happens to mine as well. Just I rejoined it.
أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذا سألك عبادي أني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون ونحن أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace and blessing of Allah be upon you all. First and foremost, I would like to apologize for the slight delay on my part. It had completely missed my mind that the program was starting at 10. I thought that it was actually at 11, and therefore the camera and the setup wasn't ready yet. I've been asked to speak on a very important topic, and that is, as evident from the verse Surah Baqarah that I have just recited, Surah Baqarah verse number 187, and that is prayer, and not just any prayer, not just salat or the mandatory worship that we do, but specifically dua, specifically praying to Allah in regards to something. And this is the next step up from making sure that we are regular in our 5 daily prayers. In the verse that I have recited, in this Allah talks about prayer and acceptance of prayer. And this fact Allah presents as the greatest proof of His existence. The single greatest proof of Allah's existence is the acceptance of prayer. And Allah says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ ibadi, that whenever a servant of mine asks about me, ibadi anni, about me, فَإِنِّي قَرِيب, tell him that I am near. And the proof of my nearness, the proof of my closeness, the proof of my existence, the proof that I am there is that whenever he prays, whenever he supplicates, I listen to his prayers. When we look at prophets and the life of prophets, this is the single greatest proof that we see unanimous amongst all of them. amongst every single prophet of God, the acceptance of prayer is one of the greatest proofs of existence of God that is given to their people. Imagine if this proof was not there. Imagine the implications of this proof in our life, right? Islam, Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi Islam, he says, "Wo Khuda abhi banata hai jise chahe kalim, abhi usse bolta hai jisse wo karta hai pyar." We do not believe in a God that only exists in scriptures or in books of hadith or Quran that you see behind me. We believe in a God that interacts. We believe in a living God. We believe in a God in regards to whom we can show proofs of his existence. Our God is not limited to philosophy, to books of tradition, to books of hadith, or to only the Holy Scripture. And if we are not able to do so, then how can we preach about God to other people? How can we call other people towards God when we ourselves cannot show proofs of his existence? And it is for this reason that even the Prophet Islam, he says that that prayer is the source of thousands and hundreds of thousands of miracles that are manifested by prophets, as well as the marvels that are displayed by the saints to this day. And it is through the effect of prayer that extraordinary signs of divine omnipotence are manifested. It is only through prayer. The Prophet ﷺ, in his famous quote from Barakatul Dua, which all of us know, from Barakatul Dua, in which he says, the famous, that Urdu quote, Arab ka be'aban mulk mein ek ajeeb majra guzra, that single greatest human revolution that took place, right? The revolution of minds, the revolution of ideas, the revolution of change that happened in the history of mankind, the single greatest revolution that took place in the sands of Arabia, where thousands and hundreds and thousands of dead, spiritually dead, they became alive in a matter of days, where these people who were absent of any words of wisdom, they started to utter words of wisdom, and they started to show miracles. The Prophet ﷺ says it was only because of the prayers of that person who would spend his night in worship, that person who had lost himself to God. So we must realize that as Ahmadi Muslims, whenever we teach, whenever we preach, that prayer is the single greatest proof of God's existence that we can give. But it has to come from a personal space. We ourselves have to be confident that the God that we believe in, he's a living God. That the God that we believe in, he listens to our prayers. And I believe that each and every single Ahmadi should be able to present examples from his own personal life. We have prophets before us. We have khulafa before us. We have scholars and divine people before us. We read unke waqiyat, we read their incidences. We read stories and we hear stories of acceptance of prayer. If you listen to the Jalsa last weekend, in Hazur Anwar Aidullah Ta'ala bin Asal Aziz address, we would have heard stories of acceptance of prayers. But what we must draw from ourselves is that in our lives, surely, I believe each and every single Ahmadi would have a story of a personal experience of acceptance of prayer. And this is that hope which can never be extinguished, right? We look at the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Everything had been taken away from him. His property, his wealth, his family, all types of hardships were at his door. But it is through the hope of prayer that he would be content. It is through the hope of prayer that he would find peace. And this is something that even Allah admonishes the Holy Prophet ﷺ in the Holy Quran in different places. I would encourage each and every person, after today's Ijlas, to open Surah Muzammil and just read the first maybe 6 or 7, the really small verses, Ya Ayyuhal Muzammil, right? So only maybe a verse would be maybe 3 or 4 words. Read the first 6-7 verses of Surah Muzammil and see the emphasis that Allah Almighty put upon the Holy Prophet, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, in regards to prayer, in regards to not only worship but also praying to Allah. Allah says, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, kum, that stand up in prayer for most of the night, for at least half of the night, if not more. And we know from the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, that he would spend majority of the night in worship to Allah. He would spend that famous hadith from Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, in which she states that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would stand for so long in worship that there would be blisters upon his feet. He would leave the warmth and the comfort of his bed so often at night, every single night, that Hazrat Aisha, she could not help herself but ask the Holy Prophet ﷺ that why do you inflict such burden and such discomfort upon yourself? When God has given you everything, God has given you the kingdoms of the heaven and earth. God has forgiven everything, past, present, future. God has made you Khatamun Nabiyyin, you are the greatest of all prophets. Why do you then put yourself through such pain and such hardships? The Holy Prophet ﷺ, he replied that Allah abdan shakura, that should I not be a grateful servant of Lord Almighty? Should I not be grateful for all the blessings of Allah? How many of us have been grateful to Allah in this pandemic? I know that we all know the situation that is in New South Wales. We know in Victoria, last year we went through 3-4 months of lockdown. Right now we're going through our 6th lockdown of this year. How many of us have been grateful to Allah that we are in this part of the world, in this country, in this city, under this government, where despite the pandemic, despite the hardships, we still enjoy a relatively comfortable life. And then, compare that with the Holy Prophet ﷺ, who is sleeping on a bed which leaves marks on his back. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, when he observes the marks on the back of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he starts crying. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ asks him, why are you crying? And Hazrat Umar, he says, the emperors of Rome and Persia, they sleep in palaces and such comfortable beds. Yet we have the king of this world and the next, he's sleeping on dried date palm leaves, which is leaving marks on his bed, on his back. It is through prayer that we can be grateful. That's why the Holy Prophet ﷺ, when he would worship for most of the night, his reply to Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha was that Allah abdan shakura, that should I not be a grateful servant of Allah. Such was the tradition of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A lot of times Orientalists, Islamophobes, scholars, they raise this allegation, this disgusting allegation on the life and the character of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, that he married that many times because, God forbid, na'udhu billah min zalik, he had some sort of affinity with women. Yet, Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, the youngest wife, the traditions that are recorded from her are all about him staying up for majority of the night and worshiping. There's another hadith in which Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, she says that once the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he left the bed at night. And I wondered that what the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is doing. And I saw him that he put on a cloak and he left the house. As Aisha says that I decided that night that I will follow the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She says that quietly I followed the Prophet out of the house and out of Medina. And I wondered that where the Prophet, peace upon him, was going in the middle of the night. What does she observe? That this man, the king of this world and the next, he goes to the ground of Uhud, where the battle of Uhud was fought, to the hill of Uhud. And he's weeping and he's crying and he's praying to Allah and he's asking for forgiveness of his ummah and he's asking for forgiveness of all those who were martyred in the battle of Uhud. Such was the life and the character of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him. The Prophet ﷺ, he states, again in Barakatul Dua, a book that was written specifically to show the blessings of prayer, that through these prayers we can find God, we can present the proof of his existence. And this book was actually written in reply to a famous scholar of the time by the name of Sir Sayyid Ahmed Khan. The Prophet ﷺ, he states, the fact is that prayer is one of the natural means about which more than 100,000 prophets and tens of millions of saints have given their testimonies. What else did the prophets possess but prayer? You know, in regards to prayer, Waqar Sahib, how long do I have? I just want to make sure about the time. If Iqbal Sahib or
Rabi Sahib, you still have 5 minutes.
Rabi Sahib, you still have 5 minutes.
I still have 5 minutes. Jazakumullah. So just, two things that I want to mention, before I conclude this. We know, I think all of us would have heard about, that famous book, which is called The 100, and it's written by Michael Hart. And he talks about the 100 most influential people in the history of mankind. And in the top 10, you find mostly prophets of God. So in the 100 most influential, people in the history of mankind, in the top 10, you find mostly prophets of God. And the most, as we all know, that the most influential person, according to Hart, was the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. But because, and he gives his reasons, and his reasons are that the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he's born in a part of the world, in a country, in a town, in a city, which is unknown to the world. It is not a seed of civilization. It is not like Rome, or it is not like Jerusalem, or it is not like parts of Persia, which were the seats of civilization and knowledge and sciences, right? Up till the Holy Prophet ﷺ, Mecca is unknown. The Roman Empire doesn't care about Hijaz, the lands of or the sands of Arabia, and the Persian Empire doesn't care about the sands of Arabia, because they know that these are barren lands. They did not even bother, conquering this part of the world, because it held that little value in their sight. So one of the reason that Hart gives is that the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he was able to achieve so much in his life, and he was able to set up a mission which has achieved so much since he has passed away. And he was born in a part of the world that was unknown, which no one cared about. It wasn't known for education, knowledge, sciences. It wasn't a trade, hub. Other reason that he gives is that he did so without, legions of armies. He did so without any wealth. He did so, without being a king, without being a ruler. None of this. So he says that it is astonishing what the Holy Prophet ﷺ is able to achieve in his life, and what his followers were able to achieve in the life, since the Prophet, peace be upon him, he passed away. But because Michael Hart being a worldly person, he's not able to deduce the real reason for the success that was given to the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And that, as I highlighted before, has been presented in the most beautiful way by the promise of Sayyid, peace be upon him, again in Barakatul Dua. He shows why the Holy Prophet ﷺ had this success. He shows that why the Holy Prophet ﷺ was able to achieve so much in 23 years, that he conquered all of Arabia. Why his followers were able to achieve so much after his passing away. The Prophet ﷺ, he states that, have you any notion what was that strange event, the revolution that I was talking about, the single greatest revolution that has taken place, revolution of mind, revolution of ideas, and revolution of change, right? We talk about the French Revolution, we talk about the revolution in the States. This is the single greatest revolution that took place in the history of mankind. The Prophet ﷺ presents it in eloquence. He states that, have you any notion that what was that strange event that occurred in the wasteland of Arabia. So the Prophet Islam says that it was a wasteland, right? What Michael Hart says, that no one cared about Arabia. All armies, right? We see legions of armies. If we study history, we see legions of armies of the Roman Empire passing through Arabia or passing by Arabia. And we see legions of Persian armies, right? Passing by or completely bypassing Arabia. So the Prophet Islam, he says that, do you know that strange event that occurred in the wasteland of Arabia, when hundreds of thousands of dead were revived in a few days, and those who had been corrupted through generations took divine colors? How is it that those people who were corrupted through generations, right? We know that Arabs, and we know in the Jahiliyyah, in the time of ignorance, the kind of practices they had, right? There's a famous quote that they would drink 5 times a day, and such a revolution took place that instead of drinking 5 times a day, they started praying 5 times a day, right? We know the kind of practices they would have in regards to women, right? We know the kind of practices they would have in regards to slaves. So the Prophet ﷺ, he presents all of this history in this one sentence by saying that those who had been corrupted through generations, somehow they managed to take divine color in a few days. And those who were blind, they began to see. And the tongues of the dumb began to flow with divine insight. And the world underwent a revolution which no eye had seen before and no ear had heard before. Do you know how all of this came about? The Prophet Islam, he asks them, and he answers, this question that Michael Hart, he poses, that how is it possible the Holy Prophet ﷺ, brought about such a revolution? He says, the Prophet Islam, he answers, it was the prayers during the dark nights of the one who had lost himself in God, which caused an uproar the world had never seen. And he showed such wonders as could never have been expected from the unlettered and the helpless one, the Prophet ﷺ. So this revolution, it came about through prayers. So if such a revolution can come about through prayers, imagine the kind of change that can come in our life. Imagine whatever sin, whatever weakness, whatever bad habit that we may be molded. Imagine the kind of change and revolution that you can bring about in your life through prayers. And in the end, I just want to conclude with one last thing. We see it is important to look at the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, right? Because that's how we draw conclusions in regards to our life. We see the Holy Prophet ﷺ, all of his prayers were not accepted. Right? This may come as a shock to you. All of the prayers of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, they were not accepted. And from this we can learn a lot of things. We can learn from this, right? We see that when the Holy Prophet ﷺ, when he would stand in Masjid Nabwi, right? He would stand in Medina in Masjid Nabwi, and he would recite Surah Fatiha, right? The Holy Prophet ﷺ, he would recite Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, that oh Allah, guide all of us towards the right path, right? Make us firm on the right path. Now we know that behind the Holy Prophet ﷺ, there were companions, right? There was the cream of the companions in Khulafai Rashidin, in Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazrat Umar, Hazrat Usman, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhum. But then there were also munafiqeen. There were the hypocrites behind it. There were those who, although looked at the Holy Prophet ﷺ, but they never really believed in him. They never really had a connection with him. They never really had any affiliation with him. The history tells us that not a single prayer of the Holy Prophet ﷺ was accepted in regards to the hypocrites. Hypocrites would pray behind the Holy Prophet ﷺ. They would be in the company where the Holy Prophet ﷺ would be addressing his companions. Right? But the Quran speaks about the hypocrites. So much so that Allah, in regards to, Raisul Munafiqeen, Allah told the Holy Prophet ﷺ that even if you pray 70 times for his forgiveness, you will not be forgiven. Then, let's take it a step further. Then we see in the life and the character of the Holy Prophet ﷺ that all of his prayers were not accepted in regard to his companions along the same merit. सल्लम की जो दुआएं हैं वो तमाम सहाबा के हक में एक मेयार के मुताबिक पूरी नहीं हुई. The prayers that were accepted in regards to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Abu Bakr, they cannot be compared to, prayers that were accepted in regards to perhaps Hazrat Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu, when he accepted Islam at the very end. Those who were close and dear to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we see the kind of prayers that were accepted in regards to them at a whole new and different level as compared to those who were not close to the Holy Prophet ﷺ, who did not have any relationship with him, who were not affiliated with him. Right? We have the Ashara Mubashara before us. Those people who were close to the Prophet ﷺ, they were given glad tidings of paradise even in this life. But the key was that those people were close to the Prophet ﷺ. Those people had a relationship with the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Those people loved the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Those people would sacrifice everything without even blinking their eye for the Holy Prophet ﷺ. We have examples of Hazrat Abu Bakr when the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he announced a tahriq, right? That we are about to go on an expedition, give in the way of Allah. Hazrat Umar, he decides that, you know what, this day I'm going to excel Abu Bakr, and I'm going to give half of everything that I own in the way of Allah. Such was, the obedience, the ataat, the love for the Holy Prophet ﷺ. But Hazrat Abu Bakr was on another level. When Hazrat Umar came to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet asked, "Oh Umar, have you left anything for your family?" Hazrat Umar, he replied that, "O Prophet of Allah, I have left half of everything that I have for my family." Then Hazrat Abu Bakr came and he brought everything he had, every single thing he had in his possession. He brought and he presented it before the Holy Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet asked him that, "Oh Abu Bakr, have you left anything for your family, for your wife and children?" Hazrat Abu Bakr, he replied that, "O Prophet of Allah, I have left Allah and His Messenger for my family, for my wife and for my kids." Hazrat Umar realized, Hazrat Umar says, "On that day I realized that I will never be able to excel Hazrat Abu Bakr in deeds and virtue." And this point I conclude with, and I want everyone to remember this point in regards to acceptance of prayer, that a relationship is necessary. A connection, love, affiliation, ataat, obedience, all these things are necessary in regards to acceptance of prayer. Now, in this day and age, right? In this day and age, there's only one person alive amongst all human beings in the world. There's only one person alive amongst all human beings in the world in regards to whom we can say, with proof, right? With proof that he has a living connection with Allah. That he is the representative of the Messiah and the Mahdi, the Imam of the age, who is the representative of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. We have that person in the shape and the form of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz. If we want our prayers to be accepted, if we want our prayers to have, the level of acceptance on that which we only read about in books and in scripture, then we must look at our relationship with the Khalifa as well. What kind of relationship do we have with the Khalifa? Is it a relationship based on love, respect, attachment, obedience? Is it the level of a relationship where when Hazur Anwar, His Holiness, whenever he visits a country, whenever he comes to Australia, then we come and we meet him for 2 minutes? Is it the level of a relationship that during Jalsa Salana UK, we stayed up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to listen to our beloved? What kind of relationship do we have with His Holiness? Because that will also affect our acceptance of prayers. Why is it that all these people who are close to Hazur, who are around Hazur, they speak about, their prayers being accepted? If you watch MKA, you watch some of these scholars, these people, these life devotees who spend their time continuously around Hazur. All they do is speak about how, this prayer was accepted, how they asked this to Hazur, this is what he replied, and the next day, the next week, the next month, lo and behold, it so happened. So think about your prayers, why they are not being accepted. Think about your relationship with the beloved of God in this world. Think about your relationship with him, and maybe try and improve that and enhance that and see how your prayers are accepted then. May Allah enable each and every one of us to do so. Ameen. Summa ameen.
Jazakallah Murabisa. Very inspiring and very informative speech. Jazakallah everyone for joining in. So we'll get into the Trades and Careers Expo. While we obviously start, I just want to remind, as Nafsat Saab also mentioned at the start of the Expo, that you can keep sending us your questions through the Q&A feature. If you're watching through YouTube, you can use the chat channel, or if you're using Zoom, you can use the Q&A feature at the bottom to send in your questions. At the end of all the presentations, we will have a Q&A session with all the Murabbiyan as well as the presenters who will be present there, and then you can ask your question, and then they'll be able to answer them. All right, so we'll just get right into it. Let me just... All right, so a bit of obviously agenda for the Expo. So in the start, we'll have, and Alexis have kind of went through it as well. So introduction to Umur Talba and Sanad al-Tijar departments. Then we have Professor Masood Shah, who would be speaking about the career choice and raising aspirations. Then we have a few presentations. The next one would be from Atal Nasir Ahmed Saab on the teaching profession. Then we have Faisal Ahmadi, who will be speaking about the joining the police force, choosing trades as a career from Ahmed Jawad Khan, 4 steps to start your business from Rasim Mubashir, and then obviously we have a Q&A session at the end. So we'll get right into it. Can I please request Nabik Chaudhry, Mohtamim Mahmood Talba, to please come on. So obviously unmute themselves and obviously present the department main duties and projects.
Jazakallah Saab. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'll just give a quick summary of the Umur Talba department. So Umur Talba essentially means student affairs. We keep an updated student database, which includes level of study, the year, and the field of study. This allows us to sort of tailor our events, such as careers expos, to those students, and also allows us to see which fields we have less students in, so we can try and promote and provide information for those fields as well. We also provide one-on-one guidance to students. We try and connect students to Quran professionals in the same field so they can get guidance and have all their questions answered. So please do contact your Nazameen if you're in need of guidance, and we can definitely help you out. Other thing we also do is organize events, such as obviously the Career Expo and university events through AMSA societies. So AMSA essentially stands for Ahmadiyya Muslim Students Association. Our yearly plan for the department was mainly focused around the establishment of these societies and conducting university events such as Tabligh stalls and Quran exhibitions. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we have been unable to establish many AMSA societies, as many universities have transferred to online study and are not accepting the creation of new societies. So our current projects in this COVID climate is trying to organize events such as the Careers Expo. We are also creating a high school resources database. So essentially students who have gone through the HSC or equivalent for different states can upload their notes and resources for future students to use. Inshallah, we'll aim to have enough resources for it to be helpful for next year's final year high school students. We are also in the process of recording videos aimed at guiding students, such as videos aimed at guiding students on how to pick a career and interview tips, for example. Additionally, we are also working on a detailed information booklet, which we can distribute to new and existing students, especially Qudam coming from overseas in the future, of course, to assist them in transitioning to becoming a student. So if you are a student and you ever need guidance, please do contact your local regional Nazmeen or myself, and inshallah we'll be able to assist you. Jazakallah. I will now pass it back to Zair.
Jazakallah, Nabik. So I'll start. Obviously, I'll introduce the Sanat al-Tijarat. So myself, Zuhair Ahmed Khan, I'm currently getting the opportunity to serve as Muhtamim Sanat al-Tijarat with the Majlis Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya. So the main duties of the Sanat al-Tijarat department is to provide a platform to share knowledge and present opportunities to its members, whether that's from any industries, whether that's trades, whether that's office work, also to assist Khuddam in learning new skills. And also give any career advice, which is what we're trying to achieve through the Expo today. We had initially planned for this Expo to be as a part of the National Amla, but unfortunately we've obviously had to postpone it due to COVID restrictions, but we're trying to obviously adapt to the current situation. Now, how can we assist you? There's a number of things that Sanat al-Tijarat department can do. So we've been helping students with reviewing their CVs. Doesn't matter which stage of your career you're in, either you're a high school student, either you're a fresh graduate, or either you're an experienced person just wanting another set of eyes to look into it. We can have a look at that for you. Job interview tips, again, doesn't matter what kind of job that you're going for, we've got a directory of all the professionals from different industries who can obviously give you those interview tips. Or if you are a high school student, for example, you're simply looking for career advice on, which way you should go or what career you should pick. And a part of that will be covered in the presentations today as well. So we can provide that type of career advice. The other thing that we can help you with, and we have over the last 2 years, we have developed a trade and skills directory. The purpose behind the trade and skills directory was to, obviously, there was a Shura recommendation that we had presented to Huzur, and Huzur approved it. It's a list of professionals from different industries that we have. So if someone comes to us and says, hey, I'm looking for a job in blah, blah, blah industry, or I'm looking for some support or some, obviously, guidance into it, we can connect you to individuals who are established in those industries. And at the end, of course, entrepreneurial advice. If you need help with starting your business, we've got quite a few Khuddam in the Jamaat, mashallah, who have obviously established their own businesses. A few of them will be speaking today again, and we can get you in contact with them so you can get the right advice and the right guidance. Again, in terms of the projects, like I said, we have a trade and skills directory we're still currently updating. We also have a Ahmadiyya Business Network website, which is in collaboration with the Misab's Amla, of course. We have a number of businesses that are listed over there. You are able to submit your CVs for review through that website. So I'll do obviously suggest that you visit that website as well. We also have job search groups in major Australian cities where we constantly post different job opportunities that come along. So in case if you have any questions, please get in contact with your Qaid. That person can then reach out to us, and then we can provide that help or support whatever way we can. Moving on to the next one. So we have presenting is Professor Masood Shah. So a little bit of introduction about him. So Professor Masood Shah is currently working as a professor and dean of Swinburne University of Technology here in Sydney. He has completed his PhD with a research focus on quality assurance in Australian higher education. Throughout his career, he has published a number of books and also peer-reviewed many papers. So can I please invite Masood Shah Saab to please unmute themselves and present.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Thank you for having me today for this short presentation. I'll just show you one particular slide and I'll talk through this slide. And if Khuddam and other members have any questions, you can send me any questions in the email that I've put in the on the slide right at the bottom. So I won't take a long time. I've been told that it is 10 minutes, so I'll stay within the time frame. So while choosing your career, these are some of the tips that we give to students, and also I've personally experienced that it is one way to understand students and how to guide them. So what you see on this particular slide is a square which has got a number of colors on it. If you look at the one that is in green, that is one of the key areas or factors that students use in terms of determining where or what they want to do, and that is driven by their passion. It is driven by their interest. It is based on what they want to do, what they love to do, and where do they see themselves in the next 5 or 10 years. And this is largely based on what they like or what they love to do. So if you're in high school and if you love biology, not because in biology subject most of your friends are there, but it is just because you like the subject, you like the content, then you will determine a career which is related to biology or science. So this is the first bit, which is your career is determined, or your pathway is determined, or it is determined by your interest in terms of what you want to do. Secondly, the second one is driven by family or peer influence. And this is also very common in our cultures, where our parents influence us what to do, or your friends who are in your high school play a very key role in influencing what you want to do. And the danger, or sometimes with this kind of choice, is that students drop out. You drop out in year 1, year 2, because you really wanted to do something else. You have been influenced to do something else, and that results in you dropping out from the university or TAFE or any other education provider, because what you're doing doesn't align with what you love, where you want to be, or your passion. The third one, which is in the blue, is driven by the market. And driven by the market really means that your career choice is based on where the market is taking you in terms of jobs in demand, what you see on seek.com and social media that is coming with news and so forth. Your choice is dependent on where there is more money in terms of income, elite jobs, and so forth. And it does not necessarily mean that you are interested or passionate about it, but you are influenced or driven by market forces that is saying that choose this job because there is more money, or there is more jobs in demand. And the last one, which is at the bottom, is you really don't know. And there is a very big population of students who are in that category who have no idea what they want to do. If you ask them in year 9, they'll have the same answer. And if you ask them just before or after HSC, they'll tell you that I have no clue what I want to do. So these are the 4 key factors I found that is quite important for us to understand. And the people who are successful, not only in terms of finishing a university qualification or TAFE qualification, and people who stay in that job for many years, are people who are doing that just because they are driven by passion, and it is driven by their interest, because that's what they want to do. Now, when you have, if you look at the blue box, which is the driven by market, the danger of that sometimes is, again, you think that IT job is going to get a lot of money. I'm just using IT as an example. You think that there's a lot of jobs that are going to come, but once you start doing the job, you don't love that job. And what you need to decide is what you love to do, what you're passionate to do, what you're good at. And sometimes what you're good at is not necessarily what you do in the high school. It could be totally something totally different. And that is quite important for you to understand, because in our cultures, we tend to get influenced by our parents. We tend to be a bit stressed and depressed with what people are telling you. And it's very important that you use some of these information in determining your choice. Now, on the right, what you see, I've put few things in the box. Once you've decided that you want to become X, Y, Z in terms of professions, then it's very important. That's the first step. You've identified your interest. And as I said, your interest is based on what you're passionate, what you're good about, and what you really like to do. The second one is try to find out a course that aligns with your interests. So for example, let's say you're really good at chemistry and you do like chemistry, you're passionate about it. Find out those courses that universities offer in your state and territory where you live that is related to chemistry. It's very important you check the requirement. You may have scored an 8 out of whatever the number it is. Check the 8 requirement of the course. And sometimes if your 8 requirement doesn't meet the course requirement, there is different pathways. That's the box on the right. I've put pathways. That's what you can decide. You could do a diploma pathway that allows you to enter into a bachelor degree directly without any problem. So all universities provide pathways. Pathways are there from TAFEs, pathways are there in the university so that you can directly or take a pathway and enter into the course. Then it's very important that you visit the university campus. Sometimes you may be attracted to a university or a course, but once you visit the campus, you may not like the environment. You may not like the profile of students that are in the university. And it's very important that you try to find out the university campus, talk to people, how friendly they are. As a Muslim student, try to find out whether there are prayer rooms. Is the university providing inclusive and accessible support services that caters the needs for different students, different religious groups? Prayer rooms, if you have a special need that you don't want to disclose, but you have certain requirements, you can find out from the campus where the university provides those kinds of support services that really align with your needs. Location of the place is quite important if you want to study closer to your parents. So it's quite important that you visit the university campus so that you have a good idea of the institution that you're going to study with and so forth. And then it's quite important that you then enroll in the course. And while you're doing the course, try to find a job that is related to your study. There are many students who do Bachelor of Science, but they're working part-time in McDonald's, in KFC, in Woolies, and so forth. Try to find a job that is related to your profession, related to the career or the course that you're doing. Because by doing that, you'll be gaining key skills that employers expect in the industry when you go into full-time job, and you'd be few steps further than many other people who only have a degree or would have a degree or diploma in their hand but no work experience. The danger of not gaining work experience in the area of your study is significant, because while you are gaining people skills, while you're gaining communication skills and so forth, while working in retail organizations. But it's quite important you try to find a job that is related to the profession in which you are studying. And the last one that I've put at the bottom is upskill. Upskill means while you're studying at the university or TAFE or college, while you are doing some part-time job, you are also doing some short courses. These short courses are free courses. You can access those free. It's totally online. And, there are various websites or organizations that offer these courses for free. These are courses that will help you to better understand the content. So let's say if you went to the class, you're doing programming and you didn't understand what the teacher or lecturer has said, you could do some of these short courses where somebody else is teaching you, and you may be able to understand that better. And these are offered for free from many institutions, not only in Australia, but also overseas, which you can study fully online. So that really ends my talk, and I think I've taken 8 to 10 minutes. And the last thing that I wanted to just mention, just two things very quickly, is you may have a degree, you may have a lot of work experience, you may have your parents and you may have your relatives who are in good positions who can help you get the job. But it's very important that you understand and reflect on your attitude at work. Things like, Imam Saab mentioned before about prayers. It's quite important. I've personally experienced that. You could have all that, but if you are not praying and if you are not attached to the religion, then all these things may be very good in the first few years, but not in the long run. So at workplace, things like honesty, being a reliable person, being a respectful person, being patient is quite important. It's one of the skills that not everyone has. And the last one is empathetic. These are the skills that employers want from graduates these days, and so forth. So I'll finish off here. As I said before, if you have any questions, send me an email and I'm more than happy to help you or advise you on some of these things. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah, Mr. Bhai. Very informative session in terms of assisting students who are looking obviously to start their careers on how they can obviously think this whole process through. So Jazakallah very much. The next presenter we have is Atal Nasir Ahmed. By way of introduction, Atal Nasir Ahmed is a very experienced teacher, has taught school students at all levels. He is currently working as a head teacher at Tiffany College, Dunheap campus. So can I please request Dawul Ahmed Nasir Sahab to please come on and unmute himself and present? Jazakallah.
Alhamdulillah. Everybody, you can hear me? Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. My dear Khudam brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak about the teaching profession. It is, by way of means, a profession that is slightly overlooked at times by our particular, I guess, male, students. And it's a profession by which, it's not suitable or suited for everyone, as is any other career. So I'd like to take the opportunity to, I guess, highlight some of the background to this profession. I do understand that we have, Khudam from many various states and territories, so I will keep it general. And obviously, I want to make it very clear that this is a general presentation and by no means the ends all to the teaching profession. Some of the areas in the next 10 minutes I'd like to cover. Just going to talk about pathways into teaching, the skills required, what types of teachers there are, what do you do as a teacher, and what are the career progressions. Next slide, please. So, it's often said, what is said about this profession, the teaching profession. So here are a few thoughts I just put up there for you guys to read. So I'll take, obviously, the first one for a moment's sake, a vital role in society. Okay, so look, it's quite a given situation that the teaching profession is a vital role in society. It enables us, to basically learn from our, I guess, elders who are in a situation, who have training in those areas, potential role models for us. It's often said it's a noble profession. We've heard that, but then again, so are other ones. But so what makes teaching, a little bit different? And then there's always the one I like about, it's a profession responsible for the creation of all other professions. And lastly, that it is a specialized expertise. It requires strong interpersonal skills, the ability to adapt, and to be dynamic in the way of your mindset. We heard many examples in Murabi Saab's speech about, the Holy Prophet ﷺ and his, level of understanding, the words of God. And we know how that all, entailed around the very first instruction given to him, Iqra, read, recite. So the importance of this profession, is by no means from a spiritual, but also the worldly level, quite an important profession itself. But why is it important? How can it serve as a means to a profession that enables you to carry forward, your job or occupation? So, like it's often said, that teaching does bring with it many challenges. How do you teach children in this day and age, with particularly difficult, social, mental, environments that they come from, and also just generally. Next slide, please. So in terms of each territory, each state to live, obviously there are a number of different aspects to consider. But generally speaking, as you heard Mashood by as well, the importance given to some sort of tertiary level qualification is imperative and very important. And how that basically unfolds is definitely something that you'd want to consider. So the two main ways are you complete a degree in education or training, teacher training, And the second is that you have an undergraduate degree, and then that follows a postgrad in Masters of Teaching. And some of the ways that it's, developed over the years is that as of 2020, we know that all teaching students in Australia must complete a literacy and numeracy test in order to, improve or in order to demonstrate, their benchmark requirements in regards to, their ability in English and mathematics. You will have 3 attempts, and that's obviously based on the fact that, you are learning at a higher rate in terms of your tertiary qualifications. You'll be required to undergo a working with children or records, etc. And all those matters will come into play.
I think Nasiba is having some issues with his connection. So just bear with us for a second. All right, while we're waiting for, obviously, Nasib had to come back, join us. Apologies for the disruption. Just a reminder to everyone, if you have any questions, or if you'd like to ask any questions, please make sure that you do utilize the Q&A feature either on Zoom, or you can enter in the chat on the YouTube as well. That way, at the end of it, when we have the question and answer session, we'd be able to obviously answer those questions. We'll have Rupi Silsila as well as all the presenters that we've got on board at the moment. Amar bhai, can someone get in contact with Nasib as well? Oh, there is.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam. Nasiba, we can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened. Got kicked off. My videos needs to be started again. Sorry. Thereby, you'll need to enable my video.
Sure. Amar bhai, can you please enable Nasiba? There you go.
Yep, Jazakallah. Apologies, brothers. I'm not sure what happened there. So as I was saying, in regards to choosing the private or the public sector, we just need to be aware that there are, different circumstances under each if you choose to go down that road. Now, as I was mentioning, personally, I teach in the public sector, in the government system, and I have been doing so for just over 11 years. So, I found it much more different, obviously, from my private sector counterparts. And, there is obviously always different elements you need to consider there. And I can't go into too much detail today, but I'm happy to answer that question later on. Given the pathways into the teaching profession, next slide, please. There is, given the situation of currently, the current situation that we are facing in Australia, but all around the world with COVID, I just want to state that I do understand, and I do have very, deep, I guess, understanding about the situation some of our brothers may be in regards to job situations, but very fortunate in terms of the situation with teaching. It is a profession that has not stopped even since day one throughout the whole COVID situation. So, Mashood Bhai spoke about earlier, choosing a profession in terms of what's out there, and we talk about what we love and have a passion for, but it's also, considering those other things, about, job security, etc. So definitely something that, our boys would want to have a look into if that's something that you have a strong connection to. You've enjoyed that aspect of teaching. I know a lot of you in your pursue when you pursue your careers, there is definitely an aspect of learning, teaching that you have undergone in your life as well. So if you are from overseas, there are a few different things that you need to consider. You need to make sure that you have your qualifications assessed. There's more information, obviously, on the departments of your relevant state that you can look through and have a look. In terms of the standard steps for a HSC student, though, it may vary slightly, so please be aware of that. You need to choose a type of teacher you want to be, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but you do need to apply for university courses that are relevant. You'll have to complete your HSC with a minimum, as I said, of 3 Band 5s, including an English subject as well. Obviously, that is a requirement to enter this the teacher education university course. From there, you'll obviously have to apply at a university relevant course. That includes practical as well. So you do need to go into a school and complete a practical prior to being able to join the profession. The department will then look over your request and give you an approval to teach, in which case you can then start teaching casually, or if you get a full-time job. Finding a job is definitely something that's getting competitive, but it, like any other profession, but it is about proving your worth, just like any other profession. And it often said, if you find a good casual in schools, they usually get kept, and then from there the road just goes on. With a little bit more time, I would have probably explained that a little bit more, but that's the way it is. And then once you're into the profession, you will need accreditation. There are different levels of accreditation. I'll talk very briefly about a bit later. And then you keep going with your profession, and in terms of where that's going to lead you. Next slide, please. So what are the actual skills required? These are just some simple basic stuff that any other job requires, but one of the main things I'd put there is creativity, and then followed by a very important point, which is patience and understanding. Something that if you are able, those of you who are married, have your own kids, you'll be able to know what patience and understanding is all about, let alone if you have worked in Majlis Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya. We are very lucky. We have a system whereby you get to practice those skills with your Atfal brothers. So if you've worked in the Ijtima, you'll know very well some of the patience and understanding issues do come into fruition. Your organization skills, how well you're organized for your lessons, etc. And most importantly, how you communicate. Those of you who have grown up here, there is always this whole cultural aspect to it as well, understanding the Australian culture, and being able to deal with those particular children that have grown up here. And then those of us who come from overseas with certain expertise in teaching, it's not always the same culture that we come from our subcontinent background, and then trying to teach you as well. So you need to keep those things in mind when you're trying to do that. Planning and delivery, that's just regular schoolwork. How well you planning your lessons, but also how you deliver them. Is it going to be engaging for your students? And then I'll talk about understanding your students a bit later. Next slide. And very quickly, in relation to that, these are just some of I just pulled this image out of Google. You can have a look later on. I'm sure these will be available. But one of the things that I just want to talk about here is the ability to understand these in basically a nutshell. So you need to be a catalyst for change. Sometimes it's not going your way. You need to be very adaptive. You need to be able to inspire your students into a learning when it's a 40-degree day. And it's really hot. They've just come from their breaks and it's hot and they're just not in the mood to learn. How do you then change this, classroom dynamics? So it's all about having a very, the ability to then, communicate those ideas that you need to get across in the right positive way in the environment that you have. So, there's some of the biggest challenges that, I often get asked, how do you do it? Well, it's about just trial and error at times, but once you get the hold of it, and after 11 years, I think you just learn that that's how it is. Next slide, please. As I was saying earlier, there are two very important things I'll mention in terms of the skills. Once you're in the profession, it's essential that you are proving your worth as a teacher, and essentially that's done through the professional standards. And just like any other job, like you've got your accountants, etc., they've all got standards they have to meet, or lawyers or whatever it is. And same thing with teachers, they have professional standards they need to adhere to across those three domains: professional knowledge, practice, and engagement. There are 7 standards that you need to meet, which you can look up as well for yourself. So that's, one of the main important ones is know your students and how they learn, and then basically be able to understand those students across various backgrounds, various abilities, etc. There are levels of quality of teachers as well. You have your graduate teachers, you have your proficient, and generally, most teachers, classroom teachers will stay at proficient. Then you have your highly accomplished, which, you lead into your head teachers and lead, when you want to be like as a head teacher or even a deputy principal or a principal, etc. Next, please. Next slide. There are different types of teachers. I just want to make it very clear, I'm talking about school. I'm not talking about professors in universities. I'm not talking about teachers like teaching across different sectors where you have trainers, etc. I'm talking about school. So there are mainly 2 types of teachers there. So you have your primary school, which is up to year 6. Then you have your secondary school, which is the high school teachers. But there is also another type of teacher who specializes in special ed or special education. So teaching students with disabilities, which is a highly sought profession, a very difficult one, but a very noble one. And it's a more specialized setting and requires very specialized training as well. By all means, it is a very, very exclusive teaching, I guess, teaching area to go into, and one that is, highly sought by the Department of Education across all states and territories. So please, if you are considering teaching, that would be something that you would definitely consider. Obviously, I can't speak too much about primary schools. I know we probably have one primary school male teacher in our Jamaat, or maybe a few, but I might be wrong there, who could probably give you more information. As for me, I'm a high school teacher. So if we probably move on to the next slide there. So what do you do? Look, it's not an exhaustive list there, but it can be easily, as I mentioned. I'm just going to talk very briefly. You need to create stimulating lessons, create positive learning environments, assess your students' learning, provide feedback. You've all know majority of the participants in our particular expo today probably have been in through this education system in Australia, so they know very well what it entails and how much feedback is given at a high school level, etc. And then be able to plan against the curriculum, and it's quite detailed, but I don't want to go into that. Teachers often spend time developing resources, making sure that they've researched their areas and presenting that to students. You also have to deal with discipline and behavior management. Very interesting and fun time at various times in your career. And then sometimes it's even more interesting when you have to deal with the parents of those students and the community as well. It does, get a bit more complicated than that. But I just probably won't go into that, and I can speak more clearly about that if there's any specific, considerations that you boys have. So lastly, in terms of and more, teachers, it's just ongoing training. Just like any other profession, you need to upskill yourself. And those standards that I was talking about earlier, and those levels of teaching quality teachers, all come with it a responsibility of making sure that you're upskilling yourself. So teachers usually in New South Wales, for example, have to undergo every 5 years accreditation processes. Once you've reached that proficiency, and you have to do like 100 hours of training, per whatever cycle. So it is quite interesting, but you continue to develop yourself just like any other profession. Next slide, please. Career progression. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is career progression. You don't just simply be a teacher and that's it for the rest of your life. You can be, but there are definitely ways you can excel in this particular profession. So by no means is a teaching career from a salary point of view something that's just ordinary. And so I think that's one of the things that we overlook. How does it compare to some of the other professions out there? But then again, you can easily have a particular conversation around, well, look at stability, look at your teacher profession. It's there all the time. It's not going anywhere. So we know what COVID has done to a lot of professions, but you can say that the teaching profession is still there. So look at those things as well. It does. There are many opportunities within the teaching profession and different types of roles within the teaching profession that do attract additional pay to your salary. And that will often require you with higher levels of accreditation or skills or qualifications. In high schools, generally, you've got the teacher, the head teacher, deputy principal, but then within those levels, there are different scopes of, roles that you can attain through your skills and whether you have what it takes. And then to be able to then expand that, development of that career with the right skill set or competency. I'm sure the primary system, no doubt, has a similar setup. There's many roles that you can do. Like, for example, you might have seen, those of you who've gone through the system here, you have year advisors, you have, certain types of specialized roles within the school, and they all sometimes attract with, additional pay or other, compensations that you get. School teachers school teachers can also be seconded by the department. So what that means is you get a tap on the shoulder. We want you to work in the department on some other higher projects. Like, for example, the Department of Education often nominates deputy principals, head teachers, etc., to work outside the school. You're still employed by the school, but you just work with the department. So just like any other, project management sort of jobs on the side, which you will essentially, then either come back, but often what happens is you do such a wonderful job, they just decide to keep you there. So all of these things come into play. You can then also go right out of teaching from a school and come into the department, which then becomes more of a corporate role. And then, so therefore that's a little bit different. It doesn't follow your standard school day, school teachers' salary, school teachers' leave, etc., etc. It doesn't follow that. You then just become like any other corporate job, accountant, etc. So there are that sort of, you can go into two different avenues. You can go down the teaching avenue or the education avenue, and that's really up to you. That's it. So I'll leave it there. I think my 10 minutes is up, and I'm Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, Nasib, a very informative presentation there, especially the one where it said the teaching is a profession that's responsible for all of the professions, which is very interesting. All right, so moving on to our next presentation. It's more of a talk through or a presentation. So joining the police force, we have Faisal Ahmadi on call at the moment. So Faisal Ahmadi is currently serving in New South Wales Police Force. Has been associated with the police force for a number of years. In fact, he is working today, but he has very kindly volunteered his time to come and speak about joining the police force. Obviously, as he's working, you won't be able to have his camera on. Faisal bhai, can you unmute yourself? Yep.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Can you hear me, Zahir?
Yes, yes.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I trust everybody's well and making the most of their confinement. Yeah, look, my presentation is not going to be quite as well presented and organized as Nasser's. Just a bit of a chat, letting you guys know what I do and what it entails. Look, straight out of the gates, before I've got a bit of a script here which I'm going to follow, but before I get to that script, I think it's very important to to mention a couple of things. The first is, if you hear some background chatter, it's just a radio. I need it going so I can listen to what's happening, because as Zahir said, I'm actually working today. And if it gets bothersome, just let me know, Zahir, if that radio is bothering you guys, and I'll turn it off if I have to, or put the volume a little bit lower. It's not bothering you, is it?
No, all good, Festival. We can hear you clearly.
Okay, very good. Jazakallah. So I think first and foremost, policing is an awesome job. All right. You'll do things in this job that you don't do anywhere else. If you're up for a bit of excitement, if you're up for something different, and this is definitely something you should be looking at. I would also say, however, the caveat to that, meaning the thing that you need to consider is that it's not a job for everybody. All right. There are certain people who will fit better. There are certain people who will be able to cope with the rigors of the job. So although it's an excellent job, it does have its ups and it does have its downs too. The downs can be quite significant. We lose a number of police every year due to various reasons, injury mostly, physical and mental. The things that you see and the things that you do, although they can be exciting, they can also be quite hard to deal with. So you got to make sure that you're resilient and that you're ready to cope with those difficulties. So in saying that, anyone, and this is my standard sort of talk I give everybody who expresses their want to join the police, I generally tell people that if you are going to join, make sure you have some sort of backup, just in case the job is not for you, because there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to know, and you've got to learn it and you've got to know it in a very compressed time frame. You're always learning, but the basics you've got to learn very quickly, and you've got to learn them, especially at busy stations. You've got to learn them. It becomes very overwhelming. Let me just put it that way. And a lot of people in that first year, they think, no, I can't do this. This is just too much for me. I'm never going to learn this. And then they end up walking out. So you got the people that aren't suited to it. You got the people that end up injured. And between them, that is why I give the following piece of advice. Make sure you have a backup. So if you join and you don't like it, or you don't last for whatever reason, you've got something to fall back on. What I mean by that is, get yourself a degree, get yourself a trade or some sort of qualification, or have something so that if the police doesn't work out, you can always go back, transition into civilian life, and take up whatever it was you were doing before. Otherwise, just wasting a lot of time. So having said that, I'll talk about the various points in the script. I might veer off the script. I do have a tendency to do that. So Zahir, if I do that, just let me know to shut up and I will. And I'll try and stick to the script.
No, all good.
Very good. So the first one is the pathways to get into the police. Look, Zahir said it before, I've been in the police for quite some time now. I think it's been about 18 years. So the way to join the police has changed drastically over those 18 years. I can't say with any certainty what you must do now in terms of the specifics, but generally speaking, you'll put an application in. It's very simple. You just jump on the website. They've made it very simple for people to investigate and then to put the initial application in, or to put some feelers out to find out what it's all about and what the process is. So I'd advise you to jump on the New South Wales Police website or Facebook site or whatever, and there'll be plenty of information there. But you put an application in, you get cleared psychologically, medically, physically. Once you clear all those obstacles, then you are put into an academy intake. You'll complete your academy intake. Don't ask me how long it is now. It's been changing, especially because of COVID. They've had some compressed classes. But suffice to say, it could be anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. Once you complete your recruit training, that's called recruit training for the period that you're done at the police academy. Once you complete your recruit training, then you are posted to a police station. Everybody is posted straight to a police station, and they all do the same duty type, which is known as general duties, which is your everyday policing. The guys who are out and about doing the majority of the work for the New South Wales Police. They are the backbone. Everybody starts off in the same place. From that point, you then can specialize into different fields. I think I'm skipping a little bit ahead, so let me get back to it. So assessments, exams, look, again, I can't really tell you what's involved in assessments and exams. Like I said before, there will be some physical, mental, and medical type assessments before you get into the police. And when you're there, you do a number of subjects, including defensive tactics, shooting, law, communication, traffic. You do a number of subjects. They'll all revolve around those main core topics. And you'll also be required to do exams in order for you to pass both the academic material and the physical material. Some people, you know, everybody's different. Although it takes a certain sort of person to join the police, once you get in, everybody sort of finds their way depending on whatever it is that they enjoy or what they think they can do well. So some people will come into the police, and after their initial 3 years on the street, because you must spend 3 years doing general duties. Once you've spent that 3 years, unless that's changed, I'm not sure, but that's what it used to be. Once you've done that 3 years, you can then specialize. So there's so many other fields and subfields that you can go into within the police. I don't even think I can list them all, but some of them you can become a detective, although I don't know why you'd want to. You can become a highway patrol officer. You can go to the dog squad. You can go to the mounted police. You can fly around in a helicopter. You become a weapons trainer. You can become a riot police operative. You could even join the tactical unit. Everybody who joins the police, every bloke who joins the police, when they join, they aspire to become a tactical officer. But these things are difficult. They're not easy. It's not just a matter of you turning up and being cool. You need to actually work hard. You need to train. And provided you're good enough, then you can make the cut for these sort of specialist areas. There's crime scene, and it's nothing like what you see in the movies and the series, CSI and all that sort of stuff. It's actually, can be thankless work. You don't solve a crime in an hour or anything like that. So, you know, don't go according to what you see on the TV. Speak to people who are in the field. I'm happy for you guys to come and speak to me. I'm exposed in my particular line in the police. I'm a trainer. My unit develops the material that the police learn. So any of the defensive tactics, shooting, training that they learn, we develop it and we train other people. So I get in that sort of line of work, I get exposed to lots of police from lots of different areas. So if you guys need to know things, please ask me. If I don't know, I'm pretty sure I can find out who can give me that information. So the training, what's involved in the training? The training, like I said, it's very physical, defensive tactics and shooting. It's very physical. We're actually just rolling out a new defensive tactics package in the New South Wales Police. So all those of you who are familiar with mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we have subscribed to that world to provide us with specific training for policing. It's not going to be offensive. It's going to be very defensive, but it's the foundation of what we're introducing is in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So for any of you who have done it or even watched it, it can get very physical, very arduous. So you need to make sure that you have a level of physical fitness. And if you don't just think that you can turn up and get fit whilst you're on the course. It doesn't work like that. There are requirements for fitness on the website. Have a look at those requirements and make sure that before you ever turn up as a recruit, that you can exceed, so you can do better than what they're asking you. Make sure you can do better. Don't just think that I'll turn up there and I'll be able to push out a few extra push-ups on the day. It doesn't work like that. And you're probably going to get failed and sent away, and then you'll be dejected and upset, and it doesn't really help anybody. So, it's pretty dynamic. Like I said earlier on, you'll do stuff you've never done anywhere else in society, and you probably never will do. You drive fast, you shoot guns, it is cool. It is cool fun. It's really awesome. But by the same token, there are also long periods of boredom. There is a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of things to know. You got to really watch yourself. When I joined, when I joined my first couple of years, there weren't really any mobile phone cameras or anything like that. So we used to get out and you know, there wasn't much CCTV footage. So we used to get out and we used to have a good time. We used to police, protect the community because that's our job. And we just have fun. In today's day and age, there's cameras everywhere. Right now, I'm on camera actually on this Zoom call. I'm sure the bosses are wondering what I'm doing. We've just parked the police car in a quite a little area, and I'm on this Zoom call. The bosses are probably thinking, "What's this weirdo doing?" I'm probably going to get a call soon. So there's CCTV cameras everywhere. There's people got mobile phone cameras. This morning we had interaction with people. We're at Homebush at the moment, and we're helping police this vaccination site. And already this morning we had a negative interaction with people, and the whole thing was being filmed by multiple phones. You know, so you've got to really be aware, and you've got to cross your T's and dot your I's and make sure you're doing everything properly. You're always in the public eye, and perception is considered very important in these sorts of jobs. So you need to make sure that you remember that. It's just the way it is now. That's modern policing for you these days. So I guess that would be one of the challenges that you face. Your responsibilities, you know, it's especially as a young person coming into the police, if you've grown up in a sheltered environment, within the first 12 months or just after the first 12 months, you're going to be put out there as a senior person on a car crew or on the truck, as we call it. And you'll be managing the junior person, and you'll be making decisions which change people's lives. So it's not a joke. You know, we are out here, we're doing very important work, and we're doing very, very dangerous work, right? I'm sure you guys follow the news, and even if you don't, the death or the serious injury of a police officer tends to get everybody's attention. These things happen. It's a reality. We teach you things to keep you safe. Most of the times, if people follow them, they do stay safe, but it's just a highly unpredictable job. Every single day is different. And if you are not resigned to the fact that, yes, you might get hurt, you might end up, it might end up even worse than that, or you might have to pull the trigger. Sorry, one sec. And you might have to pull the trigger on somebody. If you aren't really resigned to that fact, it's not the job for you. It's not the job where you can wear around a uniform, act cool, you know, and just wait for people to talk about how awesome you are. That does happen too, but that's not why we're here. Anyways, I'm pretty much exhausted. Whatever I had to say, I probably missed a heap of things. In which case, please, if I can't make the question and answer session, which is it's unlikely I'm going to be able to make that, I'll send your questions through to the organizers of this event. And then, Zahir, you please forward them on to me, and I'll answer them as best.
Definitely. Jazakallah so much, Faisal Bhai, for a very comprehensive, and you haven't missed any points. I was looking at them. So Jazakallah so much for covering everything in detail.
No worries, Jazakallah. You guys have a good day.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah.
All right. So that gives everyone, I hope that gives everyone a really good insight into, what kind of things you're involved in as a police officer. And again, if you have any questions, just shoot them through the Q&A screen over there, and then we can obviously we can answer them. If Faisal Bhai is not available, then we can obviously get the answers and send it across later on. All right, so moving on to our next presentation. Let me just give me 1 second. I'm gonna have to reshare my screen. Okay, so next presentation we have is from Ahmed Jawad Khan sir. So Ahmed Jawad Khan is a licensed electrician who has been successfully running his own business for the last 7 years. Obviously, in addition to that, you've seen him earlier in the presentation or at the start of the program as well. As most of you would know, that he also serves as a Naib Sadr for Majlis Khudam Al-Ahmadi Australia. So Naib Sadr, if you're on call, can you please unmute and turn your camera on? Jazakallah.
Assalamualaikum. Let's go. First slide. Assalamualaikum, guys. As brothers have said, yeah, just give me a bit of information. So what I do, I'm talking about trade today. That's sort of what I do. I'm an electrician, been doing that for a while. And this is the slideshow. It looks very pretty. Yeah, it looks not bad actually. I just put on my tradie cap. Trying to look the part here because as you see, it's a virtual program. We need to make it interesting, so I'm trying to do the best I can here. So yeah, so I've studied at TAFE. I did my electrical apprenticeship. That was 4 years. But aside from that, which is not in the slides for reasons, is I've actually gone to uni as well, and I've done a business degree at uni, and I've done a bit of extra studies as well in teaching as well. So I'm not only talking from a trade perspective, I also have knowledge in the, going to uni, getting a degree, and it's really fun. It's awesome. But so I'm giving you both angles here, but let's talk about trades. So yeah, done my license electrical work. I do electrical work. Been doing it for a while. Let's go next slide, please. Okay, it's trade for you. How do you know? A couple of dot points there. Pretty obvious. If you're good with your hands, you like doing things like that, you're hands-on sort of person, you sort of got that idea about how to doing it, go for it. If you're not into studying, you're not really too keen on uni, you can start off on a trade and then go into uni if you like. If you're not sure what to do, maybe try a trade. If you like being outdoors, you like different sort of scenery, your office is anywhere. Sometimes your office could be on the beach, it could be out in the countryside, it could be in suburban, it could be in the city. So your office is everywhere. And the good thing with trade is you get paid while you study. Not many things in life you get paid while you study or while you're learning. University is obviously different. So yeah, this is one real good advantage. So and the last point, a bit of fun here, don't like dressing up in a suit, ironing your clothes on a Sunday evening or before you go to work, your shirts. A tradie, boom, just put on a high vis and away you go. So real easy. Let's go next slide. Okay, so I want to compare university and TAFE. So TAFE is where you go to get your trade, and you've got to do that sort of extra type of study in TAFE, and university on the other side. Now, I'm not trying to say anything about university. As I said, I've done university, good experience, don't discourage it, but I'm trying to highlight TAFE here and the advantages, especially if you're sitting on the fence or you want to do TAFE, but you don't have the concept that you're thinking maybe it's not, that good, but let's look at it here. So the TAFE and the university course is similar in time frames. So general trade is 4 years. Some trades are longer, like plumbing, which can go up to 5 to 7 years. So plumbing is the longest trade, but every other trade generally is 4 years. Now, usually for the first 3 years, you go to TAFE, and that's only 1 day a week. And in that 1 day, you're still getting paid. So you're getting paid to sit in class and learn. So how good's that? Where university, you're pretty much paying your way to get the education. So TAFE is very different. In the last year of TAFE, so you've got your 3 years TAFE, and then you've got 4 years of trade. So you finish TAFE much earlier. In terms of cost, so you've got a difference of cost here. If you look at university, you've got to go on some sort of loan system, a bit of a debt, a heavy debt as well. And average is around 30,000. Now with TAFE, the good thing with TAFE is you don't have that debt. A lot of the courses now are subsidized, especially in terms of the COVID and job trainer. So the government's really pushing for trade. So you're really not paying anything. And if you're having to pay something, it's a very small cost in terms of comparing it to uni. So let's say $2,000 for electrical apprenticeship, electrical trade if you're not apprentice, but if you are apprentice, it's free. So there's no real cost compared to uni. With TAFE, when you do apprenticeship, you've got a job. To get apprenticeship, obviously you need to find employment. And when you finish your studies at TAFE, straight away you're working, you're earning, happy days. Unlike university, you could be going to uni. It could be 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months looking for a job, going for different interviews, and you may not necessarily get the job that you like. You're just getting a job. Where trade, total opposite. You've got a job. If you don't like it, there's such a skill shortage. You can go for another employer. You can go somewhere else. Salaries are pretty much the same. If anything, trade could be more. Some university degrees obviously going to be a bit more. The only thing is with that, with not teaching, with trade, you will find that it's a limited lifespan. So you're probably going to be able to do trade for up to the age of 40, or while your body's still fit and active, able to do that. So you need to look at plan B and doing other courses, or going into some sort of managerial level, or some sort of teaching, or some sort of training aspect. So yeah, so as you can see there, nice comparison there between the two. For me, on this side here, the trade looks like a better option, especially if you're into that sort of concept of hands-on work. Let's go next slide. Okay, job opportunities. So on the side, they'll put a couple of job opportunities. Firstly, there you've got a picture of one of our brothers, Brother Mohsin. He's a licensed bricklayer. He runs his own bricklaying company. So he supplied me the photo. So shout out for his company. So anyone interested in bricklaying, we've got one of our members that are already doing it. He's been doing it for a while. Now his story is interesting. He actually started off as a bus driver, and after some time doing it for whatever reasons, then he went into trade. And obviously he's earning a lot more, enjoying it, and he's got his own crew. So there's a good story there. You can start off in something else, a bus driver, and become a tradie. So yeah, so if you're a bricklayer or carpenter, this is how you can move into other areas. So if you're a bricklayer or carpenter, you can become a builder. And so that's something you can probably do once you're at the age of 40 and things like that. You can step back and sort of manage projects. Electrician, okay, I'm an electrician, so I know a little bit more what you can do there, but air conditioning, solar, you can move into smart homes, which is all sort of controlling stuff from your phone, turning lights on, all that sort of thing. Plumbers and landscapers, I'm not too sort of experienced in that field, but plumbers, I know they've got a massive scope of work. As I said, the course for becoming a plumber is much longer than other trades. Landscaper, that's actually a field where there's a high income in landscapers. So I think it's linked to the supply of landscapers. Not many good landscapers out there, but they earn a fair bit of coin. Air conditioning, you can go in refrigeration. You can also learn electrical. Mechanic, scope for mechanic is great, especially with the mining field. You can also go into big machinery, diesel mechanic, things like that. A little dot point at the bottom. In terms of job opportunities, and this sort of relates to me, you can also become a teacher or trainer at TAFE. So that's something you could consider if you wanted to teach as well. And there's a lot of scope in becoming a teacher at school. There's a big shortage in trade sort of teachers and a need for that. And same in TAFE as well. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, how to get in the trade. So the picture in the background pretty much explains a good place where you can learn all your trade skills. So the MOS is an excellent example. Get involved in all the MOS projects. There's so many things you can do. Excavation work, painting, landscaping, electrical, you name it, plumbing, air conditioning. So the MOS is an excellent place to learn your trade, or just give it a go and see if you like it. You don't have this opportunity. Not many people have this opportunity. Very blessed in that way. Other ways of getting into trade. Firstly is it's best to start off while you're in school. It's the easiest way to do it, and you'll finish as soon as possible. So if you're in year 11 and 12, you can do your trade. So you're doing also school, and then you go one day to school, or you do blocks. So they do 5 weeks at school, 5 weeks at TAFE. But it changes it a lot. You'll have to check with your school. But the beauty of this is that the time you finish your HSC, your year 12, you're already in your second year of TAFE. So you've only got 2 more years left. So by the time you're 20, 20 or even 21, you finish your trade and you're licensed in whichever field and you're earning good money. Another way is you can independently go find a company and seek an apprenticeship, and you find a company, ask them for apprenticeship or just work, and then hopefully they put you on. And if they don't put you on, go for another company, look for another company. Another option is work for free. A lot of companies might not want an apprentice for reasons. They've had bad experiences, or they don't really like the idea of teaching someone. So maybe go work for free, sacrifice a bit of your time. It's not really an issue. In the scheme of things, that sacrifice will be well worth it. So yeah, just go work for free, learn. So that's another way of getting into apprenticeship. And as I said, the last point, MOS is the excellent training ground. And that picture just shows that you've got some qudams, filling up some drains, you've got an excavator operating in the background, they're leveling the soil, ready for the turf. So that's just one example. If you look around in the grounds, we do so many different projects that will help you learn about trade and see if you're into trade. Okay, so that's it. Let's go next slide. Okay, cool. That's all about the money. Let's see how much are we going to earn. So this is an apprenticeship, electrical apprenticeship. Now this is my field, that's why I brought this up. Now this is from the Fair Work. So this is how much the minimum you would earn as an apprentice. So as I said, 1 day is in TAFE. So you're actually working 4 days a week. And then that's just your basic pay. It does include your overtimes, your allowances and all that sort of thing. So you can see the wage there. And once you're in your 4th year, 800 a week. And really that is the minimum. In actual fact, you'll find once you're in a 4th year, you're earning almost a full wage of a licensed tradesperson. So you won't be on 800, you'll be on a lot more. So this is just to get you some sort of idea how much you get paid. Now realize you are getting paid and you're still learning. So, you know, at that age, 18, 19, 20, this is good money. As I said, once you're 20, you're going to be at the high end once you finish your apprenticeship. Picture at the back is one of our brothers, brother Nasir Yaqub, who's operating an excavator at one of the Jamaat's recently bought sites in Kellyville. So he's operating some machinery and he's supplied me the photo. Next slide. Okay, so how much are you going to earn as a licensed person? So this is an average wage, and I got this from the Indeed website, which has all the job adverts. So they sort of compile all the averages of different trades and they put it up together. So yeah, you can see electrician, excavator operator, plumber, carpenter. They're all sort of in the same ballpark, but that's pretty good money. You're around 80,000, and that's just starting off. Landscaper, surprisingly, is a lot more. I was shocked that the builder was a little bit low, less than the rest. But this is just a standard wage. Now your earnings is unlimited because you can work other days, you can work weekends, you can charge more, and this is just an average. Different states will have different incomes. Western Australia probably a bit more because of the boom, mining boom. So this is sort of what sort of money you could earn. And as you know, with a tradie, you know, unlimited earning, you can work weekends and do whatever. The picture here from Brother Taha, he's a licensed mechanic, and he supplied me this photo in his workshop. He's got his own workshop in Sydney, so anyone needs any mechanical sort of related work, there you go, you can contact him. And if anyone's looking at an apprenticeship in this field, you can speak to him as well. So thanks, Brother Taha, for giving us a photo. Let's go next slide. Okay, benefits of a tradie. Be your own boss. So this is what you want to do when you work up to the age of 40. You want to start to be your own boss, and you know, and that way you can step back from the tools. Flexible working hours. So what that means is you can, you know, although you probably don't see it, tradies can take a lot of time off if they want. They can take Jummahs off, they can take Sundays off if they want, or they can work them days on weekends because they're their own boss essentially. Unlimited earning potential. So as I said, most places that you work, you're restricted by 9 to 5 or Monday to Friday sort of schedule. And if you need more money, you're going to look for a second job, drive an Uber, do security, do whatever else. But with trade, you can just do extra trade jobs, extra service calls, extra customers call on the weekend, book it in. So you can work a normal job for an employer, and then you could run your own side company on the weekends. So you've got your stable income from your employer, and then you can get extra earnings from your own jobs. Skill shortage across Australia. Now that's been happening for the last 10 years at least. There's a decline in apprenticeships. So less people are going into trade. And as a result, we've got a skill shortage happening. So there's going to be plenty of work. No worries there. Handy around the home. What does that mean? So once you learn a trade, you sort of learn how to use your hands, you learn how to use machinery, and then that helps you around the house. If you don't know how to do a bit of landscaping, you probably know how to use certain machines from doing trade work. And so you're handy around the home. You don't have to worry about calling other tradespeople to do bits and pieces if you don't want to. And yeah, you can go fishing. So if you're working at the beach and you have a day off, you finish early, take your rods and catch a big fish, as I've done there. But the photo I took, I caught a bigger fish before that, but that's just the one that came on the photo. But yeah, that's pretty much what I want to go through. So as I said, anyone got any information about or any questions about becoming a tradie or learning more about it, reach out to me. You've got the Q&A. As I said, mosque is invaluable. You can learn so much. There's so much scope in the mosque. We've got everything there. Where else would you get the opportunity where you can connect with other tradies and learn at the mosque? We've got so much machinery, so much wakaramal. We're in need of tradies. When I started putting this presentation together, I thought, where are our tradies? Who can I speak to? And sadly enough, there's not many. So we need to learn and develop and get more tradies. And in turn, that'll help the Jamaat as well. So that's all I had to say. Any questions, Q&A, let's go. All good, brother. There, take over. I'll put down my
Jazakallah. Jazakallah, Nathal Sahab. That's a very nice presentation. And I completely agree. The things that we do in the mosque, and it's not just limited to Waqar ML, the things that we do in the mosque, you can always pitch them to when you go for your next interview, or if you're going for your interview for your first job. You know, like I said, the whole Waqar ML thing that we do, you know, grass cutting, excavation, any of the things that we're doing, you can use that experience along with if you're working in any events, that's events management experience. So Jazakallah so much. And I think that was a very practical thing of you to put on your gear as well. That was really nice. Jazakallah. All right. So in the interest of time, just moving swiftly on, the next presentation we have, I'll just have to stop my screen sharing. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so next presentation presenter that we have is Rashid Mubashir Saab. Now, Rashid Mubashir Saab is an experienced business coach and has been running his own business for the past few years. He recently was awarded Australian Business Coach of the Year 2020 last year from International Coaching Guild. His unique approach to coaching synthesizes business, entrepreneurship, and philosophy, along with various other disciplines to educate people with vast set of tools to succeed. He also works with business owners and leaders from different industries to coach them to grow, evolve, and emerge as champions in life by succeeding in their businesses. Now, Rashid Mubashir, can you hear me? Are you able to turn on your screen, please? No. Okay. Amar bhai, can we have Rashid Mubashir Saab on here? There you go. I can see him now.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sam, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you yet.
Not sure why. I don't have any video sign here for me, so I'm not sure if I might
That
be.
must be. Amar bhai or Iqbal bhai, are we able to turn video on for Rashid bhai?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I think we should start.
Yeah, well, you need to start my video. It says your video is stopped by the host.
He can try now.
Try now.
You'll have to select a different camera, Rashid bhai, because it says webcam.
Oh, that's it. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can. Fantastic.
Fantastic. I can't see myself. Oh, there you go. I can see myself. All right. Assalamu alaikum and Jazakallah for having me here, Zahir Saab. And Assalamu alaikum to everyone, all the viewers at home who've joined us today, not night anymore. But it's very honorable and inspiring for me to be able to join here and share some wisdom and experience that I've been able to accumulate over the last few years. I think we'll get started straight away. Pardon me if I end up randomly asking you guys questions. It's probably because I'm so used to interactive audiences and I know the format here is webinar. So if I ask you a question, just answer it for yourself. I've got a good 20 minutes. It's going to be pretty challenging because I'm used to speaking for at least 2 hours, but I'm going to try and do my best to keep it as practical as possible in the 20 minutes. So what you want to do is probably have a pen and paper. If you're someone, actually, I want to tell you if this presentation is going to be really, really powerful for you. If you're someone who either wants to start a business now, is curious about business, or wants to at some point in their life start a business. But it's more than that, because it will be helpful to you even if you're not someone who wants to get in business, because the principles that I share with you and the structure that I'm going to share with you around how to start a business is really structure that you can apply in anything in your life, including your health, your finances, anything really in your friendship, social circle, Jamaat, work, to manage anything. It's a managerial sort of framework that I've created. And so you can use this framework to do and start and grow any aspect of your life. Because I love to take a holistic approach, as Zahir Saab also shared, that philosophy is a huge part of what I do. So the holisticness of life is something that I really focus on. And so I think we're going to get started. So if you can just get our first slide up, Zahir Saab, that'd be great. Now, there are 4 elements that I want to share with you. It says 4 steps because there are 4 steps. The 4 steps are, the first and foremost is the thinking, the way you think. That's really important if you want to start a business. even if you're in a job or any kind of career you want to be in. The second that I'm going to get to in a moment is going to be the strategy that you have. The third is execution, and fourth is resources. So we'll try to spend about 3-4 minutes on each of the slides and do our best as much as we can. And look, if I skip something, it's potentially because of time. I'm trying to stay within that 20-minute mark. I know I'm quite already 3 minutes in. So if anything's missed, I'll try to get the slides through to you guys if you're interested in using this. And as you can see, I haven't branded it for business. I want to keep emphasizing on that simply because I want you to be able to take it in any which way in your life. Now, when we talk about starting a business and entrepreneurship, the number one thing that matters is why you're doing it. It's not what business you go in. It's why you want to start a business. For some, it might be because I want to make more money. For others, it might be because I want to solve some problems. I have a cause that I want to address. For others, it could be a combination of both. For some, it could be because I just want to have financial freedom. Whatever your reason is, it's really important to be clear, why are you starting the business? And even more than that, it's important how your business is going to serve the society and the community. Super important. And that's your vision and mission. What is your vision and mission? Why do you want to be able to have a business, and what kind of contribution are you going to make to the community, to the society? That's the number one thing and question that you should be asking yourself. What problem do I want to solve, and how am I going to make a difference? If you can answer that question, you are automatically now starting to look at business in a way that will help you succeed. Because business is not about selling products, it's about making a difference and adding value. If you can learn how to add value in people's life, no matter what business you're in, from being an electrician to tradie to an accountant, no matter what practice you're in, you're going to succeed if you know how to add value in people's life. And value is added by identifying problems. If you're going to identify a problem, the solution that you provide is the value that you're offering. So have a clear vision and mission. That's my first sort of sub-step within the step of having a clear thinking, having a clear framework to think through. The next is know your values and beliefs. What I mean by values is, who do you want to be? What do you really care about? Do you care about financial security, or are you someone who wants to take risk? Are you someone who likes to have community within their business? Are you someone who wants to have a sense of togetherness, wants to build a team, have a bunch of people together? Or are you sort of someone who does really well on their own? Know what works for you. Identify your personal values. And this is not just, by values, I don't mean discipline, commitment, and things on integrity and things like that. They're important too. But those, along with, what do you care about in your life? What are your priorities in life? What do you need to take care of as you start your business? Identify that, be clear on that. Because what happens is, if you don't, and you go into business without being careful of or having planned for what's important to you in terms of, like I said, financial security, your health and wellness, your family, you may feel frustrated very quickly because you're expecting immediate results in business, but you may not get it because you're just starting out. So it's really important to prepare, be aware of, and plan for that which is important to you in terms of your values. In terms of your beliefs, it's not just religious beliefs. It's, of course, the theological religious beliefs that we have, but it's also, what do we believe to be true about our own capabilities, about what's possible for us, about what do we want to give to our family, how do we want to live our family life. Beliefs around that, being aware of them and doing things in alignment with them is really important. Because the moment you unconsciously go against those beliefs, or you don't honor those beliefs, you're now in the territory of violating your own identity, and that can become really frustrating, and very quickly it can turn into a miserable experience of starting a business. And if anything, you'll start resenting the fact that you started a business. So you probably don't want to go down that path. So be aware. The awareness is the first step. Second is to understand what your values and beliefs are. And then third is to work out a plan for your business that honors those things. Now, these are things that nobody really talks about when they're talking about businesses. Starting business. And that's part of the reason, a huge part of the reason why 80% of businesses fail in the first 3 years. Because people are not taking care of themselves. They don't know who they are. And they're trying to go outside and solve a problem without honoring who they are in the first place. So I don't want you to take this lightly. Now, the next thing is attitude. What kind of approach you take? It's not just the mindset of focus and discipline, but it's also, what are some principles that you believe in interacting with other people when it comes to business or career? And how do you actually approach these situations? How do you approach conflict, negotiations, selling, marketing, being very clear on what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, where do you need to learn and grow? That's being really clear, and that's really important as well before you start your business. Now, standards and expectations have to do with what are your beliefs and expectations around what's going to happen once you start the business. Having realistic expectations is really important, because what happens is a lot of people start business thinking, hey, you know what, I've got this really brilliant product or idea, or I've got this brilliant trade that I can turn into a business, and within 3 months or 6 months, I'm going to be making X amount of money and I'm going to be having X number of clients. But there's no clear plan to it. And that is less of an expectation and more of a fantasy. So avoid fantasies around how you can succeed in business. Instead, create objective, realistic plans that fulfill your expectations, that are realistic in the first place of what is possible when you interact in business with people who are going to help you, support you, and your customers as well. Standards have to do with how you show up. Are you disciplined? Are you committed? Are you fulfilling your commitments to yourself? If you created a plan at the beginning, are you sticking to it? So do consider what standards you need. If you know you're someone who's not as disciplined, then identify a way you're going to become more disciplined, because more than anything else, success in business requires discipline, commitment, and consistency. And most people think you need the right strategy. And that is the worst decision you can ever make and worst perception you can ever have in order to succeed in business. You can have the best of the strategies in the world, but if you don't have the right mindset or right thinking, you're not going to succeed with that strategy. And I've seen this over and over again, people trying to start their businesses, trying to grow their businesses and scale their businesses. It's the discipline, commitment, and consistency, clarity, certainty, and confidence that takes people to the mountaintop of the success that they want, or keeps them right at the bottom of the pit. So you really, really want to spend some time thinking about these elements that I've shared here. And like I said, we'll share this slides with you so you can go deeper and think about this more. Let's go to the next slide. Now, once you've reflected a little bit more around your thinking and you've become clear on who you are, where you want to go, what you want to do, why you want to do it, now let's talk about strategy. The number one thing you need in terms of strategy in your business is a blueprint. Identifying the steps and actions that you need to go from point A to point B. If point A is starting a business, let's say you're starting an e-commerce business or a digital marketing agency, where are you now? What are your resources? What do you need to get to point B? So what that means is that you need to be clear on what that point B is. You need to create a plan. You need to have a plan of action. And what I recommend at minimum is have a 12-month plan for when you enter in business. That's the minimum. So your 12-month plan, and break that 12-month plan down into 4 quarterly plans. So write this down. If you're someone who loves to plan and you want to be more disciplined and committed to starting a business, you want to have a 12-month plan broken down into 4 quarterly plans or 90-day plans. Now, as you create those plans, you want to have clarity around what are the divisions or departments in your businesses that are going to need your attention in the first year. Now, this is really important because a lot of people spend time doing things like sorting out all the legal paperwork and spending way too much time in things that are not as important or are not your strengths. Let me put it that way. If managing money is not your strength, let your accountant do it when you start. If sales is your strength, focus on that. If sales is not your strength, then learn how to do it. Because no matter what business you're in, you're going to have to learn 3 skills when you start. How to sell, which is the product that you're selling. How to get it to people, which is the marketing. How to get it in front of people, how to get people to want it. That's marketing. And third is how to deliver it. Now, most people know how to deliver the product or service, but they struggle with either marketing or selling or both. So how are you going to attract the person that you want? How are you going to convert them into a customer? And how are you going to deliver the product? Those are the 3 major areas you want to plan for in terms of the departments. So marketing, sales, and service delivery or fulfillment. Then identify what are some of the benchmarks and KPIs. And what I mean by benchmarks and KPIs is what are some of the measurable targets that you can achieve in the first year? Set yourself some realistic targets. So if you want to make $100,000 in your first year, well, then break that down. Break that down into what do I need to achieve in the first month? Realistically, what is achievable? The first 3 months are most likely going to be slower than the next 3 months, because in the first 3 months, you're getting your footing, you're getting your foot in the door, trying to get feel of how warm or cold the market is. Just, as they say, dipping your feet in the water. The last 3 months, or depending on what business you're in, maybe some quarters are better than others. If you're in financial services, well, mid-year is the best time for you. If you're in retail, if you're selling e-commerce, last quarter is the best for you, which is October to December. So you really want to identify what are your strength periods, where can you succeed more and where you're going to be challenged more. Having foresight of your challenges in your business is going to significantly help you manage your emotions and any pressure that you might experience. Particularly in right now, with the way the economy is going with COVID, it's very, very challenging for most people to not, let alone start a business, stay in a business, to start a business and succeed in a lot of different sectors. And that's why I keep going back to the thinking aspect. If you're clear on why you're starting, if you have a long-term vision to solve a problem, if you have strong reasons and values around sticking in business, then you're going to sustain through the pressure of a 1 in 100-year event like a pandemic. Because you're truly about adding value to people. You're not in this just for the money. Now, coming back to the strategy, once you've identified your measurable targets, the next thing you want to look at is what kind of systems do I need to start? Now, a lot of people, again, get bogged down in systems only, and oh, these are all the systems I need. Only focus on getting the necessary systems in the first 3 months. What do you need to get your marketing and sales going? That's the first thing you need to be focusing on. If your strength is not how to do graphic designing, don't do graphic design. Don't spend time trying to work out how to use that, because that time can be better used to bring in revenue or reach out to people, connect with people, and share about what you're offering. So identify what systems do you need, identify what are your strengths, and if you can create some systems, and then use those systems to your strength. Then identify what SOPs, what standard operating procedures or operations, manuals, templates, and checklists do you need? Some things that are going to be really handy on a daily basis, things like invoices, a simple reference checklist of how to start your business at the beginning of the week and end of the week, depending on what business you're in, the day-to-day run sheets and things like that. Those are pretty simple ones. I think most people have a sense around that. But have some sort of structure that keeps you grounded and focused on daily and weekly basis as well. And that's what comes from templates and checklists and manuals. Now, if you can see there is a flow, I started with vision and mission because that's the most important. This presentation is also kind of designed in terms of priority. So if you go through the thinking elements, become clear on vision, mission, values, beliefs, standards, expectations, and goals. Then you want to go to strategy, identify a high-level blueprint, then go down to what departments do I need to kind of unpack in my blueprint, and then what systems do I need, and then what kind of checklists do I need within that system or within each of those departments. So those are the major 2 chunks that you can do without actually being in business. And I want to say this again. The thinking and the strategy work you could do without having started the business yet. Now, most people don't do it even after starting the business. And that's why I said 80% of the businesses fail in the first 3 years. So if you're thinking about having a business, starting a business at some point in the future, start working on these 2 things. They might take you a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, depending on who you are, how much time you spend. They could take any amount of time. But these are some things that you can start doing instead of waiting. So start taking action to become clear on who you are and how you're going to get what you want. Now let's go to the next part, which is execution. Zeresab, can you please? Yep. So execution is the third part, which is really about once you've started the business, which is your, let's say, first 3 months. Of course, you're going to have execution all along, no matter how long you've been in business. But let's look at it from a perspective of your first 3 months. You've got an action plan that you created in the under the strategy section. Now you have clear action steps that you're going to do. So you're going to identify every week your top 10 action steps you want to take to get you whatever specific small or big or medium-sized goals that you've set for yourself. So you've got to be really clear at the beginning of the week how you want your week to span out. Otherwise, you're going to feel like there are no people to buy your product. You're going to fail in business, and all these kind of feelings are going to come up for you if you don't know what you have to do for the next week. Your week's going to turn pretty terrible and challenging. So use that 90-day, 3-month plan to then plan out your weekly plans to have clear action steps of what you want to do on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and things like that. Execution also includes, what do you talk about? Conversations. Who do you need to talk to? What do you need to talk about? And how are you going to approach these people, right? So if you're selling a product, like I said, let's say you're in financial services, the customer that you need to reach out is a business owner. If you're in B2B, or if it's someone who's doing personal tax returns, then you need to know where you're going to find these people. What do you need to say to them? How are you going to say this? Is it going to be online, offline, in person? How are you going to reach these people? How are you actually going to talk to them in a way that resonates with them? Nobody cares about a business's product, guys. People care about their problems. People care about their problems. I'm going to say that again. Write that down. People care about their problems only. They don't really, deep down inside, don't have the capacity in their brain, and this is scientifically proven, neurologically, we don't have the capacity to think about a small business that is breaking down the road. We might think about it for a moment or as it comes in the news, but realistically, we all think about what's important to us in our lives, and that's how we're designed, and that's how we come together as a community as well, by honoring our own values collectively. So it's really important to know who your customer is going to be, how you're going to talk to them. What are their trigger points? What are their fears, frustrations, desires, and wants that you're going to solve through your product? And that's how you're going to identify how to talk to them. So there's an entire framework. If you guys want to go on Google and study a little bit more about that, it's called identifying your avatar or your ideal client. Spend some time doing that if you want. Now, the final part of the execution phase is making a decision. And you're going to have to make lots and lots of decisions. Now, this is something that goes along the way even before you start the business. So your decision-making starts today. You've got to make a decision today if you want to start a business, let's say. I mean, you can make it later, but I'm just, for conversation's sake. If your business decision starts today, then you need to take a bunch of decisions on how you're going to turn your life around, how you're going to approach life differently. What time are you going to allocate? How much money are you going to allocate? What kind of conversation do you need to have with your partner, spouse, parents, brothers, sisters, whoever it is around you that gets affected by finances and the allocation of your time? Because business initially will require a lot of your time. Now, one of the most important decisions you're going to take is, when do I start the business? And one of the benchmarks that I recommend to people who are going to start the business is, from a financial perspective, you may not have a lot of capital, and that's okay. There's a lot of opportunities out there today that you can grab on and start with as little as $10,000, particularly in the e-commerce space. If you're in the service industry, you can even start with $5,000, like a digital marketing agency, website building, whatever it is for you. E-commerce, selling products on Amazon, things like that could be started with as little as $10,000. But that's not the most important part. What I recommend at minimum is that you have at the least 3 months worth of expenses as savings in your bank account. Now that's at the least. Ideally, you want to have 6 months. So if you have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, that gives you a buffer of 3 to 6 months to purely focus on business before you leave your job. And if you're not going to leave your job, that's totally fine too. You can do a hybrid approach, which is called hybrid entrepreneurship. You can have your day job and then work on your business in the evening. That doesn't particularly require you to have any savings. All you need is the capital. So these are some bold decisions you're going to have to make. Am I going to go hybrid? Am I going to go full in? If I'm going to go full in, what kind of financial stability do I need to have before I make that decision? So that's the execution part that you need to take care of. I know I've just reached 20 minutes. So I'm going to hopefully take 2 more minutes if that's okay, Zersab. Let's go to the last slide.
Yeah, that's all good. Jazakallah.
Yep, great. Now, resources. This is a really important one. And again, this is something that you can plan for in advance, but it really comes into action once you've started your business. Team building. If you need a team, like I said, you might be someone by yourself, but you may still need team. And by team, I don't mean people who are working in your business. I'm referring to people who could just be support mechanisms to you, like an accountant or a bookkeeper. It could be a virtual assistant that you hire just to help you with admin stuff. And you pay them not as much as what you will pay them in Australia, but hire someone overseas. And that's a growing trend for people who are starting businesses. You can get virtual assistants for as little as $10 an hour, and they're pretty competent. From Philippines, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, subcontinent as well. Then you want to know who are you going to hire, and you got to have a clear criteria. What are the things that you need help with? So I'm going to go back to the thinking aspect for a moment. Remember how I mentioned that you want to know what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Try to hire people to close the gaps in your weaknesses. Try to hire people or get help from people if you can't afford to hire them in terms of the threats that could cripple your business. Like I said, if numbers are not your strength, get someone to manage your numbers. And so your hiring criteria at the beginning should be based on who can close gaps at the minimum cost for me. Of course, while not compromising the quality at the same time. The other thing that resources, by resources, I don't just mean things that you need, but it's also how resourceful you are with what you have. How well do you utilize it? And performance management is really important. Being super clear on how do you know that you're actually moving towards your target. And that comes back down to the weekly planning that I was talking about. If you spend 15 minutes on a Sunday evening or a Monday morning to map out how you want your week to look like. And then at the end of the week, you spend 15 minutes to see what did you achieve. That's a really good start to managing your performance, because it gives you a whole week to assess your performance in. And that's how you're going to learn how to manage other people as well, by first managing yourself. Most people make the mistake of thinking that leadership is about leading other people. It's not. You cannot succeed at leading other people if you can't lead yourself. And same goes for performance management. You can't manage other people or their performance if you cannot be an exemplary role model by managing your own performance. And what I mean by self-leadership and performance management is keeping yourself in check, staying in congruence with your values, with your beliefs, with your vision, why you started the business, doing those things that you commit yourself to, those little promises that you make yourself. Stop telling yourself those little lies. Oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow, or I'm going to do this day after, and not doing it. So those little things are going to make you less accountable to yourself, which in return is going to cripple your self-confidence, which will in return cripple your leadership. And that's why people struggle with leadership, leading other people. So the key message in the resources section is how you're going to lead yourself. Identify that. If you can lead yourself, if you can be super clear on how to be disciplined, how to be a resourceful person with everything that you've got, may it be as little as it is because you're starting out. How are you going to lead yourself and be resourceful with that? If you can do that really well in the first 3 months, then you can start thinking about hiring someone to help you a little bit, even if it's 5-10 hours a week. Particularly in e-commerce businesses, you can start getting some revenue in the first 3 months easily. Or even service-based businesses. Once you get 5-6 clients in the first 3 months, you can hire someone to help you with the administrative stuff. And as you do that, for you to be able to monitor their performance, know that they're performing well, you need to have done that for yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to hold them accountable because you just don't have that as a muscle of management. So that's the kind of 4 major areas that you want to be thinking about in 4 steps. So I'm just going to summarize that now in 30 seconds. What you want to start with is your thinking, which is your mindset. Why are you doing your business? What do you want to solve as a problem in the world, in the society, in the community? It could be something small or big, whatever it is for you. What are the realistic expectations that you're going to set yourself with when you start out in business? So that will pretty much summarize your mindset that you need to have. Strategy is about being clear on a blueprint, where you are and where do you want to go? What's the goalpost that you're aiming for if you're going to play football, metaphors? Then what systems do you need in that? The 3 things you want to take care of right from the beginning is learning how to market, sell, and deliver. So market, sell, deliver, those are your 3 areas that you want to plan for initially. And that's your A to B plan that you need to have at minimum for 12 months with 4 90-day plans of the first year, which is your quarterly plan. Then the key is to stick to those plans, which is in resources or resourcefulness as well. Self-leadership is about sticking to those plans. Third element was execution, which is what actions you're going to take. What resources do you require to take those actions on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? And what kind of conversations do you need to have initially to get the ball rolling, to get some customers in, and the major decisions, the bold decisions that I've shared with you that you have to make around what kind of savings you're going to have, if you're going to do hybrid or individual entrepreneurship. And finally, we talked about resources, which is at the stage of starting your business. It's about leading yourself, becoming more resourceful with what you have. Resources are what you have. Internal resources like discipline, commitment, focus, integrity, care for people, ability to communicate with them, soft skills. These are all resources. And then hard resources or external resources like money, systems, and things like that. How you can utilize all of these to create a slight bit of success and progress in the first 3 to 6 months before you start hiring your first person to help you out with whatever it is that you're doing. And so that's my 4-step framework. I hope that was valuable for you guys. And I really, really hope that if you guys are thinking about starting a business, it's one of the most fulfilling things you can do. But I'm also going to paint a true picture that it's not all roses. There are challenges like anything else. Like they say in a relationship, when we get married, the first 6 months usually a honeymoon period for people, right? But what happens is when a couple of years pass by, or that the initial period passes by, things start to come to surface that are challenges. And business is very similar. We go in with positive hope. It's great to be positive, but it's also important to be realistic. Be realistic about what you want to achieve and what challenges you're going to face. Plan for them in advance so you're ready and resilient to take on those challenges and succeed in that business. I really wish you all the best, inshallah, for all of you who want to start a business. I do wish all of you, and I would love for our Jamaat to have more and more entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurship is the fastest, most effective way of creating impact in society, of reaching out more people very quickly. So if any one of you wants to have a chat or has any questions, anything that I can help you with, please reach out to me. And it's been an honor to be able to serve all of you. Jazakallah so much.
Jazakallah, Rashid Bhai. Jazakallah so much for a very comprehensive presentation. Once again, I mean, our aim at the start of the year was to go through it, have a workshop where Rashid Bhai could come in and obviously have an interactive session. However, obviously, we have to make do with the things that we have, and obviously with the COVID situation. So Jazakallah so much, Rashid Bhai. I'm sure we'll have questions. People have sent their questions across. In terms of the presentations, that's all we have. However, to all the audiences, if you still have any questions, just make sure that you send them through to the Q&A feature. If we can't answer them, we will then obviously reach out to you with the question and the answer separately. I'll hand it over to Naib Sadr Saab, Waqar, and Nasir Saab. Nasir Saab, can you hear me? Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah Zuhair Khan sir. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Now we're going to have Q&A session with our respected Murabiyan. This part of the session is really enjoyed by Khuddam all around. So I request all Khuddam to please send us your questions into the chat in the message box of Q&A, and we will start to read these questions to Murabiyans, and they will answer it for you. While we are waiting Rabi Saab to join, I would like to congratulate the team for extraordinary good presentation were put up for all Khuddam's benefit, and it's really good and it's encouraging, and I'm hoping that all Khuddam will be taking benefit for all these presentations. So we have questions which are starting to come. Can I see respected Murabi Saab, Batay Rabi Hadi Saab? Assalamu alaikum, Rabi Saab. Jazakallah Murabi Saab for joining us, and our other dear Murabi Saab, Wadud Junood Saab, are you on as a panelist as well?
Yes, I am.
If you can, we can see your video as well. That will be very good. Jazakallah. So while Murabi Saab, Junood Saab join us, I have a question for you.
Sorry, Waqar, Murabi Saab's there. It's just his voice a little low. Murabi Saab, if you can speak a little.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah. Murabi Saab, the question first I would like to put to you both is, can I request from Murabi Saab to please explain pathways to Jamia for Australian Khuddam?
Murabi Saab, we are having a little bit issue in hearing you clearly. It's very low. The voice is very low.
Should I speak up, or I'm not sure? Is this better, Zuhair?
No, it's still very low. Have you got like a headphone or something attached to your?
Right now I don't, but should I get one?
I mean, it might make things a little bit better, I think.
No worries. Just give me a second, then I'll get one.
Okay.
Tahir Rabi Hadi Saab, if you'd like to answer this question first, please, while Murabi Saab gets.
Could you kindly repeat the question?
Explain pathways to Jamia for an Australian Khuddam.
Right. Well, in terms of the administrative aspect of it all, I think it would be best to allow Maulana Sayyid Wadud Sahib to answer that question, because he's been obviously dealing with this for a few years now and helping and guiding particularly the Waqfi law in relation to this. But I can talk on this in general, that generally speaking, it is encouraged that if anyone would like to join Jamia Ahmadiyya, then they should try to do so after completing their high school around the age of 17 or 18. And then also, it's also possible for you to join Jamia even later on as well, because I've seen many individuals who have joined Jamia Ahmadiyya even after doing a year of uni or even 2 years of uni. So the age bracket that you usually will see is around about the ages of 16 right the way up until 20, 21, even 22. And then there are also certain individuals who get special permission from Huzuri Anwar, Aidullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz, and maybe slightly even older than that. I know I had some colleagues, classmates in my class who were much older than most of us, and they got permission from Huzuri Anwar to join Jamia Ahmadiyya. Now, for people from Australia or the boys of Dam from Australia who'd like to join Jamia Ahmadiyya, particularly they are encouraged to join Jamia Canada because the visa pathway is open for them to be able to do so. Currently, unfortunately, it's not really possible to apply to Jamia Ahmadiyya UK due to certain requirements and visa constraints that Jamia is facing at the moment. So particularly, it's encouraged that they join Jamia Canada. To do so, I think again, Wudud Junusa would be best in explaining what the application procedure is. How do you actually go about doing it? Because I personally went to Jamia UK and I know the procedure for applying to there. So if Wudud Saab is back and his mic is working, I think maybe we can hand over to himself.
Can you hear me now better? I don't have any headphones in the office. Actually, no.
Rabi Saab, we still can't hear you. It's very low. Voice is very low. The input.
Speech as well?
Okay, we'll move to the next question while you, Marsab, can you, we have a next question for you, Rabisa. The next question is, why Hazrat Muslim Maud Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu advised Ahmadis to open up their own businesses and don't choose jobs as a first priority?
Is that a question to myself?
Yes, please.
Right. Fundamentally, I think it's something which has already been explained. Mashallah, I really enjoyed the presentations that were delivered today. I was able to listen to, I think, particularly the one just before this Q&A, and also the one that was delivered about trade. So fundamentally, the presentation before me actually has described this in depth. And I would say that that is exactly what Hazrat Muslim Maud Radiyallahu Anhu was explaining in terms of entrepreneurship, businesses. There's just so much more scope in terms of what you can achieve through your own business and through your own entrepreneurship, rather than being fixed with some sort of 9-to-5 job, which doesn't have so much scope in you as a person growing, but also you as a person being able to benefit society at large. When you're an entrepreneur, you're able to, based on your taste, based on your interests, you're able to serve the community in a way that someone who is working a normal 9-to-5 job isn't really able to do so. And I would actually even say the same would apply as in the two presentations back, the one that was delivered about tradies or tradesmen. Even that is, mashallah, a wonderful avenue to pursue, because again, you have a lot of freedom, you have a lot of control, and eventually you're also able to start up your own business in regard to this. And fundamentally, you're also able to serve community. And I think that is one of the big aspects of it, being able to serve community at large and being able to benefit people. And I think that's something that businessmen or entrepreneurs have a greater ability to do so. And of course, it also then serves the requirements of the Jamaat as well. Fundamentally, what is our objective as a Jamaat? First and foremost, of course, it is to bring people closer to Allah Ta'ala, to enable people to have a real and living connection with Allah. But also, fundamentally, our objective is to also serve, right? Serve humanity at large, to be able to be a beneficial community for society, right? And that's something which we all should be aspiring to do. And if we can do it through our own day job, if we can do it through our own career pathways, and entrepreneurship is definitely a wonderful way to be able to serve and benefit the community and also be of service to the Jamaat. And because the Jamaat consists of people who all require help in some way or another. So these would be the fundamental points. But I would say that the in-depth explanation has already been given in the presentation before me, and it was wonderfully put, mashallah.
Jazakallah, mashallah. There's another question. Why in our Jamaat there are different tanzeem or auxiliaries, Atfal, Khudam, and Ansar? So if you can just briefly touch base on that. Jazakallah.
Yeah, so absolutely. The objective of the various auxiliaries, I'm not sure if the mic is, I'm very sorry. I know you most probably can hear my son. My office is right next to my house and my son's not having a great time at the moment. So I apologize for that. So if that's interrupting what I'm saying, I do apologize. But fundamentally, the auxiliary system of the Jamaat was established so that the Jamaat can serve every single aspect of the Jamaat, right? The Jamaat consists of ladies, young children, young men, young women, and obviously elderly women as well. So there's different demographics within the Jamaat, and it was important that the Jamaat should be able to serve each and every aspect of the Jamaat in the way that is tailored fit or tailored towards that particular demographic, right? And I think it's a revolutionary system that Hazrat Muslim started, and I'm not sure how many of you would know, but in actuality, these systems or these auxiliaries started off with Lajna Maila. So Huzur Anwar Raziallahu Anhu, his attention first and foremost was towards the women, to ensure that the women are not undermined and their needs are met and looked after. And then of course you had Khudam al-Ahmadiyya and Ansarullah. But particularly, fundamentally it is this, when you're talking about an overall administration and organization, the Jamaat is obviously supreme. The Jamaat is, everyone is part of the Jamaat, and it is the duty of the Jamaat to particularly help individuals in terms of their tarbiyat and ta'lim, also to obviously do tabligh, but there's also many other aspects in serving the community. But to focus on different parts of the community which may go in some way overlooked or undermined, these auxiliaries are there so that to ensure that each and every part of the community is looked after based on their own outlook, their own age range, their own particular needs, etc. So it's a revolutionary system that Hazrat Muslim Raziallahu Anhu established.
Jazakumullah khair. We will, Jazakallah, Musa. Alhamdulillah, we can hear you now. Jazakallah, welcome back. So the first question is for to explain the pathways for Jamia for Australian Khuddam. If you can, briefly touch base on that. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, I was listening to respected Murabi Saab, and I think he more or less mentioned everything that needed to be mentioned. But it's important to realize when we went to UK with the first batch of Waqfino, one of the boys there, he wanted to go to Jamia. So much so that he actually told Hazur that, Hazur, I want to go to Jamia, and I'm 98% sure that I do. 2%, I'm not sure. Hazur's reply was that you need to be 100% about Jamia. And he said that, you want to do accounting, to go into business, do accounting, then you can dedicate your life. But for Jamia, you need that mindset that you need to be committed 100%, before going. Secondly, it's important, to know that we have our Nizam-e-Jamaat, but above that Nizam-e-Jamaat, we have Khalifatul Masih. So there's a lot of students out there, like Rabbi Saab mentioned, who may be out of that age of Jamia, but because of their desire, because of their prayers, and because of Hazur Anwar's instruction and guidance, they entered Jamia at the age of 23, 24, 25. But as far as the guidelines go, right after high school, you can apply to Jamia. You apply to Jamia first and foremost by writing to Hazur Anwar, Idul Ta'ala bin Asl Aziz, dedicating your life through respected Amir Sahib. You write to Hazur Anwar, and you also, through respected Amir Sahib, you contact Jamia and you submit your application to Jamia. After that, there's a small, procedural step. They look at you, your Jamaat, where you come from. They may get reports from your Guide Saab, from your Sadr Saab, from the local missionary, from the Amir Sahib, as well as, of course, looking at your basic criteria in regards to getting admission into Jamia. But it's important to, know and understand that just because you may be book smart or maybe, you're not book smart at all, does not guarantee your admission or lack of admission to Jamia. As I mentioned before, it is your passion, it is your desire to dedicate and serve, it is your, prayers, it is all of that, and of course Hazur Anwar's guidance and his instructions. I know many, students who went to Jamia and they didn't even do a single test. During a mulaqat, they met Hazur, and Hazur said that you should go to Jamia. That was the only sentence that they wrote on their application form, that Hazur Anwar instructed me to go to Jamia, and that was it. There was no interview, there was no application, nothing. If Hazur Anwar has said so, then that goes above any administration, protocol. So these are things to keep in mind. And if anyone's interested, they should contact their Murabi, they should contact their Sadr, they should contact Amir Saab, and through them, you start the procedure of entering Jamia.
Jazakallah khair. Next question is that by Khadim is, how can one have an internal and external peace and harmony?
Is that for me or Hadith?
G for you.
How can one have internal and external peace? This question, it comes up again and again, and this is something that we discuss, quite often. It's important to first, before I give, what Islam and what the Holy Quran says, it's important to realize that our contentment, which is peace, right? Peace, internal and external, it doesn't lie in this world. We, again, give the example that we look at people who may have wealth, who may have, good cars, good mansions, jobs, everything. And outwardly, we look at them and we think that, these people, they must be happy, they must be living a content life, they must have peace, inner peace, external peace. But then at the same time, we find drug abuse, suicides, overdoses in a lot of, members of these communities, of these circles. So regardless of which aspect of society you look at, right? Whether you look at the wealthy, whether you look at the middle class, or whether you look at the lower class, you find that in some form or another, parts of that society always lacking peace, whether that's internal peace or external peace. And that's why the Holy Quran gives us the greatest guidance in regards to achieving internal and external peace, is that if you're at peace with the purpose of your creation, if you're at peace with the purpose of your existence, then you will be at peace internally and externally, regardless of which part of the world you're in, regardless of which country you're in, regardless of how developed that country may be, and regardless of your career choices, jobs, and education. And the Quran puts it beautifully that that once you realize the purpose of your creation, the purpose of your existence, the purpose of you being here, then in the remembrance of God, your heart will find peace. If you're wealthy and you remember God, you will be at peace internally and externally. If you're middle class or in the lower class, if you're in developing countries in Africa, where they don't enjoy the luxuries and the comforts that we enjoy, if you're at peace and with the purpose of your creation, purpose of your existence, then you will be at peace. But you can be wealthy, you can be in this part of the world, you can be in that part of the world. If you're not at peace with that, you will never, according to the Holy Quran, you will never attain internal or external peace. We look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, right? We look at, just off the top of my head, Hazrat Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, he said that whilst they were suffering the persecution at the hands of Makkah, when they were confined to this small valley and they didn't have anything to eat or drink, he says that one day I felt something soft under my feet and I picked it up and I ate it right away. He says, to this day, I have no idea what I picked up and ate. That was my condition. But even in that condition, you find these companions, their hearts to be content internally and externally. So that tells us, right, the stories of these prophets and the companions, it tells us that peace internally and externally is not related to, material things that are in front of us. It is not related to material situation of our lives. It is related to us recognizing something far greater. And once we recognize that there's that greater existence, there's that greater purpose, all these things, they become futile. And that's how the Quran teaches us that we can attain internal and external peace.
Jazakallah. So next question I put to Muhammad Atay Rabi Hadi Sahib. Is it better that we choose jobs we like or jobs that can help Jamaat?
Sorry, I was muted for a while. Yes. So I would say both are applicable. I think you should follow or try to pursue the job that you like, but also see how that can be beneficial to the Jamaat, because again, what it comes down to is, are you fulfilling your purpose in life? And if the job or the career choice that you've taken is purely individualistic, or it's something which only serves the purpose of bringing food on the table, that's well and good, but that will only last so long, right? So if you can, obviously, but again, I guess when this question is raised many a times, we start limiting our minds, and we think that there are only so many jobs that you can pursue that could be beneficial to the Jamaat, as I mentioned before. And this is in actuality something that Huzur Anwar Allah Ta'ala bin Aziz has emphasized time and time again. Any job, any career which serves humanity is in the interest of the Jamaat, right? There are many ladies who are waqfateno and may not be able to serve in the same capacity as men do, but Huzur still encourages them to follow their career paths if it is in the interest of serving mankind. Similarly, there are many waqfin, right, who from birth, they've been committed to serving the cause of the Jamaat, but they may not be hired by the Jamaat, you can say, in terms of the administration. But to them, again, Huzur Anwar Allah Ta'ala bin Aziz has explained and instructed that they should focus on pursuing a career that can serve mankind, because though you may not directly be working under the system of the Jamaat, as in you might not be hired as a worker, but your services to humanity itself will be in the interest of Jamaat Ahmadiyya. One last example that I'll give, for example, there's a friend, I should say, who told me his experience once, and this was a long time ago when I believe there wasn't so much. I mean, there's so much information now out there. We're so much more aware of Huzur Anwar Aidullah Talib bin Ismail Aziz's expectations now, due to it being so widely published and everyone having access to Huzur's guidance. But in those days, he said that I wanted to go into astrophysics, and I particularly wanted to work for NASA, but I'm a Waqfino. And in my mind, I thought that, is this really something that would serve the purpose of the Jamaat? And what kind of ended this whole conversation for me was one day I unfortunately came across an individual who didn't give me the best advice. And when I asked him, he asked me about what I should do, and I said, this is what I would like to do. And he in his own limited understanding told him that, well, how is this going to serve the Jamaat in any way? You should do something else. And he then decided to take another career path. And though what he's doing now, he very much enjoys as well, but he obviously didn't go in that direction. And then one day he was sitting in a Gulshan class with Huzur Anwar, and Huzur was asking different individuals what they would like to do. And one individual raised his hand and he said the same thing, that I would like to be an astrophysicist, I would like to work for NASA. And Huzur said, that is absolutely wonderful. You should pursue that, because again, it serves humanity, right? And there, this brother, he was saying, I was literally just kicking myself in the back. I had so much regret at that point, that why didn't I just ask Huzur? Why did I, ask this individual and base my decision on this person's limited understanding, right? So fundamentally, we should be looking to doing things which serve a greater purpose, serve humanity. And there's so many fields out there that can be of service to mankind and the Jamaat's interests.
Jazakumullah khair, Murabbi Sahab. Can I request Murabbi Wadood Junood Sahab, if you have 30 seconds, if you want to say anything about this program and your thoughts on this program for today. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, respected Naib Sahab. First of all, apologies for my end. There were some technical issues, and also Waqar Sahab, I would like to apologize. Although you had messaged me the correct timings, for some reason I thought it was at 11 o'clock and not at 10 o'clock.
It's okay,
and you had called, I was busy doing things in my office, so I'm glad that I was still able to get on as soon as you called. But Jazakallah for having it. It's a pleasure being here. Wonderful program. I actually learned a lot listening to you, although I'm not seeking career change or career guidance, Waqar Sahab. But I learned a lot in regards to trade, what Ahmed Sahab mentioned, and also in regards to businesses as well. One thing that I learned is, and maybe that we can contact our finance department and show them that page about how much the tradies are earning. And check how how our tradies are doing in the Jamaat. But wonderful presentations by everyone. Also Faisal Sahib on the police. And I look forward to attending future programs.
Jazakallah. Any closing comments from you, Murabbi Sahab? Tahir Hadi Sahab, if you want to wrap up another 30 seconds you have.
Jazakallah. This is a wonderful initiative. I as well really enjoyed the presentations. And it's just incredible how much you can learn, really. Again, I don't think I would ever plan to change my career, but there was so much useful information, and I'm sure there's a lot of things I've learned and will be able to utilize in my own life, actually. So wonderful. Jazakallah, It's a wonderful initiative. May Allah Ta'ala bless this for all of us.
Jazakallah. Now this is the time. Now we are coming to the end of our program. It was organized by Muhtamim Talim Tarbiyat, Muhtamim Amur Talaba, and Muhtamim Sanat Tijarat. So they have done extremely well. I would like to also thank to the technical team, especially Mar Khalid Sahab. And I would like to thank all, both Murabiyan to be taking off their precious time and giving us that. And lastly, I would like to thank all the Khudam viewers who have attended this. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. By the grace of Allah Ta'ala, we have successfully completed this program. I congratulate all the teams and may Allah Ta'ala help them, guide them, protect them, and bless them for their efforts. At the last, I just want to say one comment about a difference between a successful believer and a non-successful believer. So Promised Messiah ﷺ has said very clearly that the success of a believer is having a connection with Allah Ta'ala. And I will leave with these words, Inna Allaha ma'allazina taqu. So if you can ponder upon these words, I'll leave you these words, that God is with those who are righteous. So Jazakallah, we are over 1 minute now. So we have to close and we have to abide by our time and events. So many Jazakallah to all who have joined today. And thank you for all of us to join and make this program successful. Inshallah, I have one last announcement, which is we are holding another program. And that will be on 29th of August this month, same time, Sunday, 10 to 1. And that will be Wasiyat Forum and Rishtanata Forum. That will be organized as well. So I would like all Khudam Atfal and Rabiyan and our team to join that program as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.